And now I apparently have to look up the silly whatever our link is here.
Mumble recording is started.
I didn't hear the ding ding that I usually do, but that's probably okay.
So I do have Audacity set up, ready to go.
Oh, lovely.
I just hit
Is it on mono? Basically, you're just saving your own stream in mono.
So it looks like I got mono set up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Lovely.
What a lot of us do is just hit the pause button and the record button, and then when it's time to start, we just hit the pause button again and it starts recording.
I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, you also need to save it as something, save the project to something like episode 335 with your initials at the end of it.
All right, Londoner says that the live stream is loud and clear.
Brilliant. Just a point, Scott. Your audio's just a little bit low. You might want to just crank your mic up a little bit.
I'm checking mine now. Is mine low?
Just a tad, not much, Joe.
Yeah.
I can hear you okay.
I can see that I'm only hitting like negative 18 dB in Audacity.
You
That's
are
Leo,
or you aren't?
It isn't
all I'm
nice to
getting
say
to.
the live stream is on the page
Oh.
because it isn't. I mean, there's a
Okay.
link to the live stream on the page, but there isn't a link. And I need to post the link.
Well, the link is in the Mumble, but number two, there's a direct link on the webpage.
Oh, you now put it in the Mumble for me after I was asking you to, and you just put it in the how? It's not in the Mumble. I
Hey,
don't
look,
see it here.
It takes like 10
There it
steps to
is.
get over there, and I
Check.
wasn't over there.
Check.
There it is.
Yeah,
Much
can see
I
it.
got it. I got it.
Hey,
Okay.
for future reference, Moss, if you go to...
No, I don't have any future references.
Ah, maybe. You will now. If you go to the /livestream site, let me show you.
That would be a past reference.
/livestream. There is right under the video where you can... Oh, so you can do it two ways, right? You can right-click on the video and do copy video URL. That'll work. Or there's a direct link right under the video. You can right-click and copy link on that.
Well, I'm busy typing right now, so I can't pay any attention to any of this.
Just give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to go...
Okay, I now have it posted in the room, which is what the idea was.
All right.
All right, so you're telling me I go somewhere and do something else, and then if I do that, then I get something, and then I can paste that.
Sounds good.
No, it doesn't. I don't know what the somethings are.
Go to the /livestream website.
I'm on the live stream.
Hours. And then right-click on the video.
Right-click on the video itself.
Yep.
Copy video URL.
Bingo! That'll do it for you. Or right underneath, there's a link. You can do the same thing. Right-click on that and copy link.
Copy video URL at current time.
Not current time, because that it kind of depends on your own situation. If you just do
Well,
the
then I
other
only
one.
see the one. I only see copy video URL.
Well, perfect. That's what you want.
Okay. Well, I assumed that might change each time, but apparently it doesn't.
What do you mean? It does. Well, it does when I do it. I just hadn't done it until maybe like 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes when I had mentioned it.
Okay, so I still can't post this until you've already started the live stream.
It's on. Yeah, I mentioned that.
All right. I'm still
And-
confused.
Joe, you said it sounded. You caught it. It's good. We're good.
Yeah,
We're live?
Londoner says it's good. And when I clicked on it, it was working just fine.
All right. Let me go post this link. Oh, you already did.
Oh, we don't have a Bo today. We got to get
Nice.
him out of the notes.
Oh, did he say he's not coming?
Start,
I think Tony said he's not coming. So it's just the 5 of us, guys.
Moss, how do you spell shenanigans?
Shenanigans, SHEN, ANIGNS. I'm not sure my A came out clearly. IGANS.
Yep, you're right. It is cool.
So just before we start for Audacity, I moved the channel to mono, which is like down near the middle on the toolbar.
Yep.
And all I need to do, I save the project as episode 35.
Yep.
335.
That sounds good to me.
One more thing I'd like you to do, though. Up in the center, next to where the mic is, there's a start monitoring button. Click on that and start talking normally and see what it gets to.
In Audacity,
In Audacity.
start monitoring button.
We are live, but we haven't started yet.
Yeah,
I have recording level.
I'm just gonna bring the chair.
I must
Hold
be
on.
missing it. Sorry.
Okay, it should say click to start monitoring it.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Well,
Okay.
when my mic's open, I'll be able to hear all those squeaks and
Check,
whatever
check.
clicking you do on your keyboard.
Check. Gets
But when
me to,
it's
like,
not, I
minus
won't.
12.
Okay,
Perfect.
that's good. That's good. Now, talk loudly once.
Hello.
What did it get up to?
Almost -3.
Almost? Okay.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
that should be good.
We might not have to do any work to that to the volume on that. Nice. Look at that. How long did that take? That went from never doing anything to straight up pro in about 15 minutes.
Hey, and we're only 2 minutes late in starting so far.
Technically, if we start late every time, we're no longer late when we start late, right?
Wrong.
We're still late every
That
time.
makes us consistently late. That does not change the start time.
It might. So the live stream was started before 2 o'clock. So I mean, we do say the live show starts at 2. So honestly, we're early.
Keep telling yourself that, Leo.
Oh, I will. I absolutely will. And when someone comes up to me and says something like, "Hey, your show started late," that's exactly what I'll tell them too. Like,
spin.
I remember one of the very first groups that we were on.
Oh, you're going to end up a politician.
Oh, see? Okay, and that's exactly where I'm taking this. I think it was Tony Watts had said, it was like maybe the second show that we were on, I said something, and he was like, "Yeah, you're going to go into politics, aren't you?" Like, I didn't plan on it, but, now that I see,
Well, you talk
how
well, you're
good
easy to
everybody
listen
else
to,
is
and you
doing?
talk a lot.
yeah,
That's
there
a
you go.
politician.
All right, I can do that.
I'd
I would
vote
love
for
to
you.
We
know
have some
why we-
attention.
Maybe.
Hold on. This is an important question. Are you
Okay.
35?
Not yet. I'm not. I can't be
Ooh.
president yet, but I can be
Ooh.
like mayor or something.
Good time to get to be senator, you know.
See? That's where it's at. Got to start your political career
Maybe
down
you
low.
can take on that Cuban imposter
No,
that they've
you-
got now.
Sorry, Leo. You're already past it at 35. All the politicians are already starting their careers at 20, 21 these days.
I know, man. I know, and on Twitter too.
Okay,
So I'm way behind
People,
the curve.
I have a show notes question here.
Go.
We're just gonna guess.
In the question section, where he gets asked, "Does Linux do everything you need in a system?" Somehow we have a background color in there, and I can't get it out.
That's because I commented on it.
Oh,
Here.
where?
Yeah, there's a comment on it by Joe.
There you go.
Where is the?
It's gone.
Okay.
It's gone now.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. I just went down there and saw a sneaky added question. The calls for the old question ASL. Oh my god,
Right,
that's good.
Scott. Just to let you know, when we do the 3, 2, 1 record, we do 20, 25 seconds of silence with your mic open so that we can reduce noise at the end. Background noise when we do the edit.
Perfect.
And then we do a 3, 2, 1, and everybody says 0 together, so we get the shows synced.
Yeah.
And that's when you
So-
hit Audacity, right? The record button.
No.
No.
No,
wait,
you
what?
have the
You hit
record
the
button from the first.
We do a 3, 2, 1, start recording, and then 20-second pause, 20 to 25 seconds, and then we do a 3, 2, 1, and everybody says 0.
Yeah, that very first 3, 2, 1 record is when you press record on Audacity.
And
Never
then,
stop recording till the show's over.
And then we do straight. You don't say anything after we've done that 3, 2, 1 record. We just have 20, 25 seconds of silence, and then we'll go into the 3, 2, 1, 0 to line the tracks up.
And after that 25 seconds of silence, anytime you're not talking, mute your mic. But during that 20 seconds of silence, we need to hear
we
your
don't have to
background
start
noise.
muting your mic until Leo starts the intro stuff.
Yeah, and on top of
Perfect.
that, to be honest, if you don't mute it, it's not a big deal. We can go in and silence any kind of noise in between your talking sections.
So you're volunteering to edit the whole show, are you?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to do that, but I will.
Okay. Right, shall we do the 3, 2, 1 record and the silence? I'm
Yeah.
getting tippity tap from someone.
That's
Mhm.
me. Because
And I will say, Scott, don't stress about it. If anything goes wrong, Tony has a mumble recording, and if for some reason Tony's computer blows up, we still have the YouTube stuff that we can pull from.
Right.
Yeah.
One more
Sounds
pro
good.
tip: don't disconnect your mic.
That
Yeah,
might help.
you disconnect and reconnect your mic and mumble turns off.
Yeah, I did notice that. So
In
Okay.
fact, I've had that problem with disconnecting my headphones. It sometimes plugging it back in, mumble shuts off.
Yeah.
Right.
It was your speakers that you were disconnecting where the timing got off.
Okay. Well, anyhow,
Right.
I'm
Hey,
ready.
Let's go.
1 sec.
Another
the,
sec.
Yeah, the top of the wandering stuff. Let me see.
Let's go, Joe.
Who?
Um,
No, different Joe.
GI?
Who's after
Yeah.
Moss? Tony Hughes, what have you been up to?
I haven't been
Give
that
me-
guy
give
in
me-
like 20
I
years.
put loads of stuff in the show note.
Oh no, I mean, give me your four-word summary.
Oh, cars, baking, injuring myself.
About Tony's been baking, and Joe, you've been reading or listening?
Well, obviously I've been listening. I mean,
Oh, and
Always.
reinstalling my computer as well.
lots and
Ooh.
lots of 3D printing fun.
Oh, okay, perfect. Tony's been
Yeah, 3D printing
reinstalling,
fun.
and Joe's been
Into 3D printing fun.
printing in 3D.
Okay. Let's print another Joe. Yeah.
Hey, that'd be cool.
Already did that. I call him JoJo.
Get back.
Yeah, you did a
So-
genetic print, didn't you?
Yep.
We get one more news story.
Beatles reference there. Sorry.
Libra Office Alpha.
Well, my throat's almost okay. Learning how
I'd like to
talk
say I caught your Beatles reference, but that's before my time
properly. Thank you for catching
considerably.
it.
You're not allowed to use those words before my time.
Way
It's
before my
It's
time.
against the rules.
Okay, I think I got the intro finished.
Okay.
Maybe. Someone's got a bag of popcorn. They're crunching up.
Yeah, my coffee's still a little too warm to be sucking on, but oh well.
Yeah, I got me some sweet Texas iced tea.
I got a monster.
Ooh.
I
Yeah.
got my normal size 42-ounce coffee cup.
Had a
Oh.
double shot coffee earlier. I don't need that much caffeine.
I've got
My
nothing.
pills.
2 hours. If I had anything to drink, I'd be bathroom break about 3 times.
Well, I'm just gonna try and time it right.
All right, guys.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Are we ready?
Are
Scott?
we ready?
Are you ready? Right.
Okay. Do the business.
3, 2, 1, record.
Gee, my traffic's quiet today.
Hey, that's good.
No, it
Cool.
isn't, because then you won't have any sound to reduce.
My mic's not working again.
Oh,
Oh,
What is
so we get to
going
do it
on?
over again. Yay!
It's done it again.
that actually worked out for me because I was
Yay!
being kind of noisy.
Okay.
What's going on? Just a minute.
Edit, undo, record.
Hee 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 hee.
Okay,
Are we
so
starting fresh?
Yeah, we got
It's
to.
on the right one.
right.
Why is it not recording?
So we're
Hey
gonna
Scott,
start over.
the easy way
Yeah.
to do this is hit stop. Just press X
And-
on the top left of your audio waveform.
Or
It
hit
was
delete,
something to
edit,
do with the
delete.
pause.
Edit, undo, record is easy.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can do that too.
Got it.
Yeah, it was something to do with the pause because when I press record, it works. But when
for the record,
I am not seeing an undo record.
all I'm saying is for the record, Scott.
Oh,
got it
I
right.
had one.
Okay,
I've
should we
got it
try
right.
that again?
Maybe
Hold
you're
on,
in different
hold on.
versions of Audacity, Joe.
That's entirely possible. I was just saying I didn't see it.
Let's see. What am I in? I should be in 2.3.3.
Finish getting my pills out.
I'm only in 2.2.2.
Hold on,
Two,
let me
two,
see.
one Here.
233 here.
Yep, 233. Update your Audacity. There is a PPA, people.
2.2.1.
Nah, you don't need it. Yeah, 221 is what's in the Mint repo or the Ubuntu repo.
222, I think it is, isn't it?
Oh, is it 222? Okay.
Well, tack on the PPA and you'll get 2.3.3. And
Anyway.
there are some good new tools in it.
Right. Shall we do 3, 2, 1, record again?
Yeah.
Let's do
Mine.
it.
My mic failing.
Having fun listening, Londoner?
To all of this. Oh,
You
man.
realise we've all got this on Mumble, so we can put this in
Of
as an
course.
Easter egg.
And on YouTube.
Okay.
It's on the real internet now, boys.
Okay.
All right.
Don't forget the 25 seconds of silence again.
Right.
3, 2, 1, record. Yay!
Well,
It
I had
worked
one
this time.
halfway decent truck in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, caught a little bit of that.
Hey, right. Are we ready for 3, 2, 1, 0?
Let's do 3, 2, 1, 0. We all say 0 together.
3, 2, 1, 0.
0.
That was fair.
Yeah, it was. Pretty good. Okay, Leo. You're on.
Oh, is it that time? Again?
And now here's Leo.
Leo!
Wait, there's a show?
Yeah.
Do you mean
Sir.
all that wasn't just for fun?
No, sir, this is just a lug. This is just a lug.
I am okay with that.
Yeah?
All right, this is the new intro. I may or may not have to do this more than once, so we'll just wing it.
I'll mute me mic.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on, I gotta get my chair situated. Okay. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I can. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 335. This is episode 335.5. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. We're in the mintcast channel in IRC at irc.spotchat.org. If you see something that you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Telegram, Discord, or post directly at mintcast.org. This is Leo, and with me today is Tony Hughes.
Hi guys, good to be back.
Moss.
Good to still be here.
Joe.
I'm here again.
And making good on our promise, a special guest, Scott.
How's everybody doing?
Amazing. Pretty good, I think. For me, anyway. We're recording on Sunday the 17th of May, 2020. First up in our wanderings, I finally got my Pi 4. Scott has been working from home. Moss plays for his peeps. Tony's been reinstalling, and Joe's been printing in 3D. Then in the news, no ZFS for Mint. Some honorable mentions on the Ubuntu section last episode. Libra Office Alpha is out, and more. In security, it's GitHub's turn for issues. In our innard section, we're making good on the promise to include more community. And finally, our listener feedback. So in our wanderings, I'd like to start with our special guest, Scott. Scott, what have you been doing these past couple of weeks?
Well, besides working from home quite a bit, usually doing about 50-50, half on the site where I work, as my team is essential employees. I do work for a biotech company, so we are supplying medicines to many patients around the world. So we have to continue manufacturing everything on our schedule so that we still hit our supply and so on. So it's been good, and so far so good. We've been really good in the site.
That's fantastic. Helping people out. I love it.
Outside of that, I've golfed a few times this week. Not any stellar rounds, only in the mid 80s. So hopefully next weekend I'll be able to do a little bit better and get something in the mid 70s or so. Another piece at work, working with Microsoft Teams. So we do use Windows at work quite a lot, and they have opened up Microsoft Teams for us, and I've been finding it's a really good program for collaboration, communication, and setting up a lot of areas for the team to work on projects together. It's a really good tool. Never use Slack, but I hear it's very similar to that. And but overall, it's really working out well for the team.
That's awesome. And Teams just recently, I think back in February or so, got released for Linux as well. So if you're itching to put it on a Linux box, I guess you could do that too.
That would be interesting to see if it would work. Lastly, another good friend of mine, he's the one who actually brought up the word Linux to me probably many years ago, and he finally installed a version of Mint on one of his kids' computers that was pretty old, and so far so good. He's loving it and doing well with it right now. So that's what I've been doing this week.
Very awesome. So for those of you that are listening, we'll have a lot more questions for Scott in the next episode that'll drop next week. So stay tuned for that. Well, for me, I've been Pi 4ing. I finally got my Pi 4. Joe and I were talking about it in one of the pre-show conversations that we always have. And I had it sitting in my cart. I couldn't decide. I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. I felt like I should. And Joe pushed me over the edge, told me to get it. So I went and got it.
Well, it was such a good price.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think I had to pay shipping. So I think it was $7 more than I had quoted you, Joe. So I think it was, yeah, $70, I think, give or take $1 or $2.
I hope you got some good cooling or some thermal gloves to stop burning yourself on the CPU.
Nope, I am running this thing bareback, man. I just threw it straight in the case. I closed the case to actually it's a 10-degree Celsius difference. Case off or top off the case, top on the case. So it's in the case, just so I don't accidentally shock it or something. But yeah, it
Be
gets toasty
careful,
in
it
there,
gets
man.
toasty.
Yeah, definitely toasty. So I tried over this past week to try and actually replace the laptop that I'm on right now with the Pi. Now, let me tell you, it's 90% there. It's actually really good. Performance-wise, it does Audacity without even sneezing. It Mumble, it works. I got a little bit of maybe like static or something. It kind of sounded like static, but it wasn't static. But here's the deal. Here's the thing that the reason I'm not recording this right now on the Pi. Here's what it was. When you turn Audacity on, Mumble loses the ability to see the device. When you turn Mumble on, Audacity loses the ability to see the device. And I'm talking recording device. So that put me in a pickle.
Yeah.
Because all of my things are over USB. They all show up in the hardware list like that. So it was it made me sad. I was very sad because I was actually planning on doing it today on that.
That's
No,
not an unknown problem, though, is it? Because we sometimes get that. We'll start Audacity, then start Mumble, and then our audio's gone all skew with, and we have to go back and do it in a particular order to get everything to work properly.
But
Yeah,
then you
and-
guys usually aren't using the latest Mumble and the usual latest Audacity.
Well, I don't think I was either. It's just whatever was in the Raspbian repo. This was just on Raspbian. So I've got more testing to do. On the 12th, I think-ish, 12th-ish, Ubuntu 2004 was given the green light on the Raspberry Pi 4 officially and should have all the bells and whistles and all the firmware and all the goodies that you would expect on a Raspberry Pi. So I did install that the same day after losing to Raspbian. I installed Ubuntu 2004 server, and then I installed the Mate desktop. So Moss and Tony, you guys will be happy about that. So as far
Is it
as all
working
that,
better with Ubuntu?
no, it's working the same. I didn't test the audio just yet. I just got the OS on it, so I can't
No.
speak to that yet.
Because
But-
the only issues I really found with the Pi 4, it's fast for a Pi, and it works well in most cases. The only problems I've had is either software or driver related.
Okay. All right. This may be a kernel module driver kind of thing. I have no idea. But, well, I'm going to throw it against the wall and see what happens. Surely it can't be any worse than the experience in Raspbian, which was it didn't. So I think I'll be good no matter what. But overall, the Pi 4 is a fantastic piece of kit. It did everything. Everything I wanted it to do outside of audio production. And honestly, now that I think about it now, I wonder what it would be like if I did the audio editing on the Pi.
Were
the show.
you using a USB sound card?
I'm using a DAC.
Okay.
It's my the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. I actually, you know what? Now that you say that, I didn't use my other one. I've got the Behringer UM2. I wonder if that would make a difference. I wonder. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I'll check that out. So the last thing I've got is so I have Ubuntu on the laptop. I was singing its praises last episode, and I decided to go Plasma on the desktop too, but I can't get enough Fedora 32. I can't do it. It's just good. It's really, really good. I installed the Fedora Plasma Spin on my desktop. And this is the reason for this is because my desktop needs a newer kernel and newer Mesa and all of that. And even though Ubuntu 2004 has a newish kernel 5.4 and a newish Mesa, it's got 20.0. Fedora has a newer version of both, and that makes my desktop happy. So I went with the Fedora Spin just to see what's up. There are some actually major differences in Ubuntu versus the Plasma Spin. So I'm gonna start like notating those, and I want to talk about those more. But yeah, I will write those down and come back with some information on that. Anyway, so far so good. There's some things that are just kind of annoying in the Fedora Spin. I will say, Ubuntu works everything, just works right out of the box. Fedora, just like the GNOME version, you gotta install some packages if you want that out of the box feeling, but not out of the box. So anyway, that's it for me. Tony Hughes, what do you got?
Well, I wasn't here last show, as everyone knows. I can't remember if the show before I'd cut my finger, and but definitely it's 4 or 5 weeks ago now. I badly cut my finger, and it's still a little bit tender. When I first did it, I had a massive bandage around it. It made it very tricky for using the keyboard when I was on my computer. So, as I said on Distro Hoppers, don't go diving between the sink and the washing up bowl if you've just dropped a can lid down, because it's a bit dangerous. I've been playing with model cars again. Did a couple of more regular car models since the last time, and I was on the show. I did the Matchbox number 64 MG 1100, which is a cool little model with a little dog with its head sticking out the back window, and a very old 1950s casting of a Jaguar XK 140.
Say that word. Say that word one more time. The XK 140. What was it?
Jaguar.
There it is. I was waiting for that.
Go on. How do you pronounce it?
Jaguar.
No. It's Jaguar.
You're right. You're right.
Oh, come on, Leo. We know you pronounce it Jaguar.
That's true. That's also true.
So I ended up painting that model twice. It's now sat on the desk painted white, but originally I painted it British Racing green, but then damaged it by mucking up the detailing, so I had to strip it back and start again. I haven't been brave enough to do any detailing on it since I repainted it. I've also been getting around to doing some baking and cooking, as I usually do. That was how I cut my finger on the can lid when I was cooking. I baked some sultana scones, and the homemade ones are just miles ahead of the ones you can buy in the shops. And my good lady wife likes them as well, so it's always a good thing to keep her happy.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta say, I'm really jealous of you right now because the bottom element on my oven is out. I cannot, I cannot properly bake a thing right now. So I've got one on the way. I hope the fix is not too bad, but yeah, I'm jealous, a little jealous.
Yeah,
Put
I
stuff
can't-
on the bottom and use the broiler element?
Well, I thought about that, but I figured since the broiler element is exposed, it would brown things way more than I would want.
Yeah.
I thought about putting a tray in between, but yeah, because yeast is still a little tough to find, I don't want to waste anything.
Yeah, so anyway, like you, Leo, I've been playing with Ubuntu 2004. I stuck it on the Distro Hoppers laptop for my review during episode 14, and I'm quite liking it. Didn't get the issue of the keyring password manager failing to start up and holding up the start of the Wi-Fi. In fact, it's not asked me for a keyring password yet, I don't think. So that's not been an issue. Like I had with the Q4 OS release that was on Plasma as well.
All we have to do is get Joe to try Ubuntu, and it'd be unanimous in this room.
Oh, yes. Hey, I tell you what, Ubuntu's even lower resource use than Plasma was last week.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I've used Ubuntu in the past. I just haven't done it recently.
Did you guys watch any of the Biddle yesterday?
I listened to the first few minutes of it earlier on, but I haven't listened to much.
My God, they
Kind
were
of late
brutal.
for Tony.
They were brutal, man. Because they were talking about Ubuntu, and I planned on being on the show, but I was not able to. But I did listen to a lot of the YouTube and threw a few comments in there. Not in a mean way. I don't think they were doing it to be mean, but
No, they don't. They don't.
my
do that.
God, it was brutal. Oh
Was it?
man, everybody
What
was
were
talking
the problems?
Well, I think the biggest issue was that there were way too many settings and not a whole lot of information about how to tweak them around. And that's very true. But oh man, I think there were only one
the
or two.
base settings have been much improved to where you don't really need to do anything unless you're really wanting to tweak it.
Very true. And I think that there was agreement on that too. If you leave it alone, it's fine. But once
Yeah.
you start tweaking it, then you start to see some of the issues that they were talking about on Biddle. So
yeah, the only thing I did was tweak the screen scaling and just upped it a bit to help with my eyes so that things were a bit bigger.
not me. I go whole hog, man. I do global themes. I chuck everything in there, man. And I haven't seen any issues. I'm kind of expecting Ubuntu to just take a dump on me. But
I'm still trying to talk everyone into using the Suite theme because it's really cool.
Oh, Suite is so good. It is so good.
I'll come up to my major problem with Ubuntu in a minute, but before then,
okay.
I've been attending virtual meetings of my logged makerspace on a regular basis. I went this Saturday, and I'd been a couple of Saturdays ago, although last week I wasn't there because I had another Zoom meeting instead. But yeah, I'm getting to be a Zoom, not an expert, but quite familiar with it. We've even got a Zoom account now for my church, and I'm one of the admins, so I'm delving into some of the settings and stuff in Zoom.
Yeah,
So
I had
that's
a
good.
doctor's appointment over Zoom.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
We did a trivia event over Zoom. It was
Nice.
It was pretty cool because they would ask questions and you would be on Teams. And then what they do is they send you to your own room to discuss the question, to get the answer, and then they bring you back in with the other 130 people that are on the conference call.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I discovered how to set up the different rooms on Zoom today. I was doing that.
Yeah, that takes a lot of doing, sounds like.
One of our younger members of the log, he actually lives across the road from me. I can actually shout to him out the window if he's standing on his doorstep and I'm at my doorstep. We can talk to each other. But I've only seen him on Zoom in the last few weeks. It's strange. Anyway, coming to my little problem with Ubuntu, I decided to stick Ubuntu on one of the SSDs I've got in my IC dock and dual boot it with my Mint 19 install. And I also still had Q4 OS on one of the drives. And it bolt grub. It did some kind of failure, and everything I did to use the grub rescue disk failed. I wish I'd have listened to the innards and the feedback, because in the feedback of the last mintCast show, which I wasn't on, they were talking about the fact that one of the people, I think it might have been Londoner, said that grub rescues baked into Mint 19.3.
That was him.
At least the cinnamon edition. I don't know if it's in the Mate one. Go on.
Tony, there's another thing you could do, which if you can get online on another machine, look up what to do when you get that grub prompt, and you really, it's easy to do if you follow exactly and don't have fat fingers typing it. And I know that's a problem.
Doing a reinstall.
Yeah,
but
do that.
It's really easy to just go through what they say to do, and you're done in about 5 minutes and happy.
I'll have a look at that and keep it somewhere.
Sorry, I do that too. I just call that the panic Google.
Yeah.
That's what phones are for.
I haven't had to do that for a long, long time.
And finally, I've since the last time I was on the show, I've recorded 2 episodes for HPR about restoring Matchbox models. First went out last Wednesday, just gone, and there'll be another one out in a couple of weeks. This is going to be a short series because I'm going to go through the process from the whole way from dismantling the casting right the way through all the work needed to get it ready for paint and reassembly. The first 2 shows, one was just an introduction and the second one was talking about some of the equipment and consumables you need for the hobby, just as a basic. But yeah, so take a look at those on my HPR pages, or you can just go to the HPR website and look for them. You'll find them. And that's about it from me. So Moss, what have you been up to?
Oh my. What have I been up to? I had a minor health setback. One of the lymph nodes in my face decided to explode. A few days later, it went down, and then one on the other side exploded. They're both still a little bit inflamed right now, but it's affecting my speech a little bit, but the treatment is simple and not always necessary. I mean, they will eventually clear out. It's like something blocks the lymph node from draining, and eventually it works it out. But if it doesn't work it out, then you can get antibiotics, and that'll fix it. But I haven't gotten the antibiotics yet. But it isn't bothering me a lot today. But my throat still needs a lot of clearing. It has now been more than a month since my auto accident. I actually fell yesterday and jammed my shoulder that it was already hurting. So I was going to be playing some more over the weekend, and I just couldn't do it. Anyhow, I haven't gotten to that yet. I kept my distro hopping to a minimum as I had to get Distro Hopper's Digest done. We had a great time with our all-time longest episode, thanks to Leo. I paused for applause.
Wait a minute,
there.
sorry. I said yay, and then I guess I pushed the wrong volume button. But yeah, yay! You're welcome for all the all the chatter.
After the show, I set up the Linux box I inherited years ago with Linux Mint and Open Mandriva, effectively decommissioning the Galago Pro from everyday use. I later changed Open Mandriva to Bodhi 5.1 and was surprised to see they jettisoned Midori as their default browser and are using Web instead, formerly Epiphany. I can't think of another distro using Web as default. I eventually swapped Ubuntu Mate 20.04 on the Kudu for Kubuntu 20.04 plus the Studio tools. So I have Mint and Bodhi on the box, Mint Kubuntu with Studio and Open Mandriva on the Kudu, looking for something new for the Kudu for next Distro Hopper's Digest. I really do need help on this, people. There isn't anything new and exciting out there. There's either the hackers only tools or this arch or that arch, and there's nothing that I would be happy to review at this point. Anyhow, Friday night, May 15th, I did a half-hour concert online. I was asked to do an hour, but my shoulder still hurts quite a bit, and the act of draping it over the guitar, which is my picking hand, is still a bit painful, so I talked them down to half an hour. I went over a little bit, but overall I did really well and got a lot of good feedback. And a poor recording. Zoom does not handle guitar and voice on one mic very well. I'm not sure what to check out for the next episode, people. Distro Hoppers. The last thing I almost tried was Fedora, but that just got reviewed by Leo for us. Suggestions are welcome, but understand that I will ignore most of them as you guys seem to keep asking for things you know I won't review. There is
Hannah Montana Linux.
No.
Yes, please.
Justin Bieber Linux, more likely.
Moss,
I'll take what I can get.
Moss,
yes?
why don't you go to Distro Watch and just hit the
I
random
do that
button.
all the time. Oh, the random button is horrible because it'll pull up a distro that I wouldn't dare try. They did that on that other show, Choose Linux, that had Joe and Elle and I forget who the third guy was. But all of those people were seasoned IT professionals, and when something didn't work, they made it work. They knew how to fix it. They knew all the workarounds, and I'm not that guy. I am
that
trying
the fun part of it?
Not if you don't have a clue. Anyhow,
Linux from scratch.
Not happening. I told you, you guys are cruel. Anyhow, there is as yet nothing new in Suzy and Gecko, although it's in beta. Susie's latest stable, I guess that's not Tumbleweed. Oh well, it's in beta, and there will be a Gecko following. The Suzy installer is crap, but Gecko has a better one. Solus uses a completely different bootloader that conflicts with all my bootloading, with my multi-booting. Okay, I finished a few classes on stack skills that I paid for over 3 years ago and haven't had the time for. I am thankful that I have the time now. I can no longer call myself a full-fledged Linux newbie, although I still feel like one, and I'm not sure some of those topics were covered as well as the presenter thought they were. Actually, the class marked as Beginners Linux covered the same stuff and did it in better detail than the Linux Power User class did. I had also signed my wife up for a website writing class a few years back, which she never got around to looking at, so I might take the time to go do that one. That'd definitely help. My websites are all in HTML4 with tables. I'm sending out more resumes for jobs in the computer field, 5 last week, 6 this week, emphasizing companies dealing in used computers and working on bridging the digital. I can't talk today. Working on bridging the digital divide, places that need someone experienced in installing distros. We are getting near the end in reading Summer's Night, the 4th book in the Dresden Files series. We are enjoying it, although Dresden is still only getting by the skin of his teeth and a lot of unexpected help. We're getting tired of hearing Dresden referred to by somebody as the most powerful wizard X knows when he can't zap his way out of a paper bag at times. What do you think, Joe?
Well, mostly when he can't zap his way out of a paper bag, it's because he's already drained all his energy doing something else. But he really doesn't start getting more powerful until, well, somewhat in the 7th book, and then more after that. He starts gaining power.
Well, I have read the Wikipedia on this, and it turns out that he actually was offered more power with a hitch,
Several
and
times.
he turned it down.
Several times.
Uh-huh.
Until he doesn't anymore. Turn
Well,
it down, I mean.
It depends on how bad the hitch is. You know, at the end of this book, supposedly he is offered the Winter's Night position, and you know, that has a whole lot of baggage with it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, what have you been up? I can't even talk. What have you been up to, Joe?
Well, obviously I've done more listening. I listened to I guess it's actually the 2nd companion series for the Nate Temple novels, The Phantom Queen. It was enjoyable. It did add to the rest of the story, and I listened to the last 2 of the main series, and I'm now all caught up on everything that I can get a hold of for the Nate Temple novels. I also listened to the most recent book of the Mercy Thompson series. Always good books in this series. Always enjoyable. This one was slightly better than the last 2 books in the series, because the last 2 felt a little bit stagnant. I mean, they were still good, but it was mostly just going over the same stuff again. And the new one really was good. So, also, I listened to the most recent Harlequin book, Sorcery Reborn. I wasn't able to get the audiobook version of it, but I was able to get the ebook and use text aloud for it. The series is decent. It has some high points. It kind of slows down later in the series, but technically, the first series ended, the second series ended, and now this is the 3rd series of books. And I don't have any complaints about it. And then I started the Netherworld Paranormal Police Department books, which is directly related to a couple of other series of books that I have also read in the past. It's a bit juvenile, but it's still enjoyable. I still have the suggestions, the Ranger's Apprentice series. It's on my phone, but I have like 60 or so gig of audiobooks on my phone to catch up on. And I'm getting that feeling that it's almost time to pull something out of the all-time favorites list and give a listen. I kind of want something familiar for a little while, maybe Wheel of Time, or I'll go back through Dresden again, or the Dark Tower series. All 3 I highly recommend. Anybody. A lot of people don't like the Wheel of Time stuff, but I do. I spent a lot of time over the last 2 weeks fixing my 3D printer over and over again. It's actually getting a little tiresome. After replacing the hot end for the 2nd time, after the thermal shielding was damaged, ignoramus that I am, I tried to run it anyway, but there was PLA stuck to the hot end in such a way that I could not fix that hot end. And so I replaced the entire hot end, including the heating element for the nozzle, because it was simply stuck in there, no way to get it out. And instead of the thermal shielding that was on there before, I switched to silicone socks and a bit of captain's tape to make sure that it stayed in place. And I started having a major problem leveling the bed. Even after several tries, I was still getting unbalanced and hard to stick prints. I tried adjusting the Z-axis because it seemed to be more off on one side than it was on the other, to make it level across the bed, and I was able to get like one print that was okay to use, and that was an micro SD card holder for an Altoids tin. But it was still a little bit off on one corner, and so I went back and I checked, and my bed was extremely warped. I did get a piece of glass plate from Amazon as an overlay, and it has somewhat worked, but I also ordered a new hot plate and a silicone thermal pad, and I want to see how well that'll do. I'm seriously considering putting this Monoprice Maker Select V2 up on a shelf and getting the Ender 3 Pro. Seems to have a lot more of a community, and parts seem a bit easier to get. There seems to be fewer and fewer sources every day for the parts for the Maker Select V2. I also, after getting everything set back up and running, I am having a bit of a problem getting the infill settings dialed in just right. I mean, I'll start printing and the infill settings the infill will just look like it's crumbling and not really there, and it's not really printed well. What's kind of worked for me is doubling the width of the infill and slowing down the speed, and that's helped with a lot of prints, but it's a constant process dialing this in to make it correct. I did find a set of STL files for printing your own headphones with 40mm drivers. I really want to do this one. I ordered some of the 40mm drivers from China. Also started modifying the STL for 50mm drivers, which I also ordered from China. I'm not very skilled at using Tinkercad for this type of thing yet, and it's taking some time. And I'm sure I'll go through several iterations before I get something that is usable for my own design. But I am going to try out another solution using scaling. Now, because of how the STL file was set up, I did have to put it in there twice, cut out the hinge on one of the images, and then upscale it 125%, and then take the hinge from the original one, put it back on there at the normal size, and get it to match up properly. That should work. The scaled up portion is 125%, which gives the mounting size at 50mm for a 50mm driver. Now, I am learning a lot about Tinkercad, but it's going to be a while before I'm really good at doing my own. I also want to see what other modifications I can make. I'm thinking about making a Bluetooth version and maybe open back, close back, and see how that works. My Raspberry Pi 4 is acting a bit odd. The desktop is unresponsive now, and it is selective on what keyboard and mouse will work with it. So I think it's nuke and pave time, and I'll probably also need a new micro SD card as well. And I found one that was a 64 gigabyte micro SD card on Amazon. One of the, what was it? A1s, 1As? One of the ones that are supposed to be better for operating systems. So hopefully that'll work. And I'm also, I did find an STL that'll allow me to stack a series of 2.5-inch drives for use with the Pi. And I haven't printed those yet, but I think it's going to go out pretty well. I've also spent a lot of time over the last 2 weeks sick and not doing much with various maladies, including a jaw infection, which I didn't know if I was going to be able to be on the show or not, but between the antibiotics and the steroidal anti-inflammatories, I seem to be doing pretty well. And that's really all I got.
All right.
And
Well-
reading through my notes here, I can tell I might have been on painkillers while I was writing some of it.
Well, you got through it, and it worked out all right. So in the Telegram while we were recording, Londoner suggests to Moss, maybe you should try Slackware.
I'm already responding to Londoner in the chat room, so.
Well, what are you responding so everybody else can hear?
See, I thought it was just going to be a little thing in the show notes and nobody was going to hear about it. I already have
No
a copy of
way.
Slackware, and I am also helping our listener Kevin, who is in Ghana, to work on his Slackware-based Allegiant OS. But it's not something that I would put on my machine. It's by no
Interesting.
means ready.
So certainly there've got to be some kind of Slackware derivatives, right? Would that interest you at all?
Not
if
really.
There were,
The last Slackware is 14.2, which is almost 4 years old now.
Okay. I'll do some digging. There's got to be more. There's got to be more.
But Slackware wasn't easy to use when it was new.
Yeah,
That's why I never used it. I mean, I had a Slackware disk first. I had a Red Hat bookend disk second. I did not get anywhere close to installing any of that. And I finally got I got Mandrake, I believe it was 8 or 8.1 to install, and then 9, and then they came out with 10, and it wouldn't load on my computer anymore. Of course, that was a 486DX2.
Ah.
And maybe it was made for more of a Pentium machine. I don't know. In those days, Pentium sucked and 486DX2s were cool. Can you say floating point, boys and girls?
All right. Well, that'll do it for our wandering section. We'll head down to the news. So in the news, we got quite a bit of fun stuff coming up, a few things that we missed last time around. But first things first, for those of you that are running Linux Mint, if you've been keeping your ear to the ground on some of the changes that Ubuntu 20.04 is employing, you may have remembered that Ubuntu gets ZFS on root. So that's just a weird phrase that basically means instead of using ext4, which is what pretty much all the distributions on the Debian side use by default, you can decide to use ZFS instead. So some of the features of ZFS, right? You get snapshots, you get bit rot detection, all kinds of fun stuff. Some of those stuff you have to turn on manually, but the fact that you're on the right file system is important. Well, in a comment on the April 2020 monthly news report for Linux Mint, someone had asked if ZFS is going to be available in the Linux Mint 20 installer. Now, I had assumed that it just would because it was part of Ubuntu. Well, it turns out with some pointers and help from Dan in the Telegram group, it doesn't. I started digging on that monthly news, found that comment, and saw where Clem actually responded back to that question. And it turns out, no, there will be no ZFS on root for Linux Mint 20. So if you're chomping at the bit to get on ZFS and you really love Linux Mint, 20 is not going to give it to you. So the deal with that is Clem wants to wait for ZFS to become more stable. So it sounded like it will be there eventually. It's just not going to be there yet. So next up, Ubuntu Unity Remix 2004 is in beta using Unity 7. And so we've got there's a comment here saying that the dev was young. The dev is young. The dev is 11. I think he's 10, just turning 11, something like that. He's not quite a teen yet. Crazy how young this guy is and putting together distro. But I guess that's not necessarily that far off, right? Because when we interviewed Josh Pasock for Ubuntu Cinnamon, he was pretty young as well. I don't think we actually got a lock on how old he was, but
He was 15.
Ah, see? So it's certainly just a trend that if a desktop is good, it'll get put together, and age has nothing to do with it.
And the Theron OS dev has been working on it for several years, but I think he was 14 or 15 when he started. I don't think he's broken 20 yet.
Wow. Very cool. That's awesome.
The future is Linux.
It is. It is. So Ubuntu Unity, I don't remember if we've actually mentioned this one last week on the show, or last 2 weeks. But if you don't know about it and you like the old Unity, not the new Unity, not Unity 8, Unity 7, I guess just imagine how Ubuntu used to be when it had Unity on it. That's it. This is what Ubuntu Unity Remix 2004 is. So if you want to go back to yesteryear, this is what you want to try out.
I want the Ubuntu Netbook remix of many years back. That was so cool on my EPC.
I had one of those too. I don't know if I ever tried that. I might have to go find some screenshots to see if it sparks any memories. Well, one other honorable mention that we did not get to cover last time was Ubuntu Deepin Desktop Edition. So that's another addition to the Ubuntu family, vying for actual flavor status. So, yep, Ubuntu Unity Remix, Ubuntu DDE, Ubuntu Lumina, and Ubuntu... What was the one that we actually talked about now that I can't remember?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon, that's right. So those are the 4 new remixes that may one day.
Did we actually talk about Lumina? I know we talked about Lumina, but I don't think it was on the show.
I think I mentioned it really quickly, talking about using the Lumina desktop. And, you know, we've got... we're going to be talking to, I think it's going to be 2 shows from now. We're going to be talking to Dale Miracle and
Dan
Joe
Washko.
There you go. About window managers. And I think Lumina cuts the muster for window managers. I don't know. You might get a little feedback from people that are like, it's not a true whatever. But still, we'll probably talk about it on that episode as well.
I don't know. Dan's probably
someone used that term right. Cuts the muster. Everyone thinks it's mustard.
Listen, I like mustard. Less so than brown mustard, but still, yeah, that's not what we're cutting. And another bit of news: Ubuntu Studio is leaving Xfce for KDE Plasma. I think this is going to be good. Who uses Studio still? I know we were talking about it before.
I'm using Kubuntu with Studio Tools.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was considering doing. But I don't want to have to mess around with the kernel stuff, and I don't want to have to mess around with Jack, so I might end up just going straight to Ubuntu Studio.
Isn't all the Jack stuff included in the Studio Tools?
Yes. Oh, I don't know, actually. I'd have to look and check.
Yeah, this is a quite pragmatic reason for changing, though. Some people would say, oh, well, Xfce is really low resource and all that, but it's not about that. It's to do with the fact that the toolkit on KDE is Qt, and a lot of the applications are Qt, aren't they? So
well, it's the whole thing about creating, and you can do a lot more creativity in KDE than you can in Xfce.
Yeah. Well, the tools are a lot of the really good tools for creation are Qt based, and KDE is set up for Qt straight off the bat, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And when I was thinking about this, it didn't really occur to me that it was the low memory usage of Plasma that really got them to switch. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a plus that on first boot most Plasma systems use less than 500 megs of RAM, but still, yeah. I mean, if you've got USB DACs and this and high quality microphones and studio monitors and all that kind of stuff, I would imagine that you're not running around on a laptop with 2 gigs of RAM or something like that.
No.
Right. So, yeah, it just did not occur to me that it was because of low memory usage or something like that. But that's
But
yeah.
some of the apps have such high memory usage that you don't want your OS to be taking up all of it.
True, very true. But again, if you're running on 4 gigs of RAM, I don't know. You might want to, instead of buying the $1,000 studio monitors, maybe buy $800 studio monitors and upgrade the RAM.
Yeah, because if you're doing serious video and stills editing and using things like Blender and stuff like that, you're going to need a bit of grunt in there, aren't you?
Absolutely. And we're going to have there's some feedback from Henrik that talks about that. I'll see if I can't dig that up before we move too far on. But next up, Fairphone 3, now available with EOS installed. Does anybody have a Fairphone?
Nope.
Nope, they haven't been selling them in the US until maybe recently. Nonetheless, nobody wants to look up /e/OS. Have fun with your Google search on that one.
Oh, okay. I found the Henrik.
It's basically a Open Android at Pi level.
De-Googlified.
Yeah,
that's cool,
de-Googlified
though.
Pi.
That's pretty cool. Kai suggested in Discord using Cloud Ready for your machine. Does Cloud Ready work on the Raspberry Pi 4? I'm just thinking out loud because I'm thinking about feedback and I remember that feedback. So I'll have to look into that. That'll be cool. I found the Henrik comment and it was about photography. So we'll get into it a little bit more in depth, but Ubuntu Studio has a lot of photography stuff built in, right?
Definitely.
And I'm starting to think there's nothing special about that, right? It's just the software. Does Ubuntu Studio do anything as far as making photography better? Like, I don't see how it would.
I think it might give you some of the tools out of the box for things like monitor calibration and things like that.
Oh,
that you
you're
might
right.
have to because they're the kind of things that a professional photographer or semi-pro might want out the box and up and running. Whereas if you just install basic Ubuntu, you've got to install and find out how to get them integrated into your system.
You're right. Oh yeah. Okay. Good thoughts. Good thoughts on that. Well, we'll talk more about the Henrik comment in the feedback, but yeah, it was on topic, so I had to bring it up. Next up, Munich calls for open source code only for items receiving public funds. So who threw this one in here?
I think that was me. They're translated. My brain is not working, people. I am so sorry. It translates something as public code for public funds.
Oh, that makes sense. So I mean, if you're using taxpayer money on it, it should be open, and by that we mean open source.
Well, the previous administration was bribed into going back to Microsoft by Microsoft actually opening their Europe headquarters in Munich.
Yeah, but that was more about the operating system. This is actually saying that if we're paying you to develop something, then it has to be open source software.
Oh,
true, but
that
they
makes
are
sense.
going back to Linux.
Wait, hold on. So they went to Linux and they went back to Windows, and now they're looking at going back to Linux. Is that right?
They are.
Interesting. Okay. So
let's see if that's in the article.
Yeah, isn't the Munich swap to Linux the standard joke now? That's the one that everybody
they wrote
points
their
to.
own damn Linux.
Well, right. So that's the one that they point to, and say, well, this is why Linux doesn't work. Look at this big old city that tried to do it and they couldn't do it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the standard.
Yeah, but they didn't use a standard Linux. They tried to write their own, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, and that
but
reminds me. Go ahead.
there was political stuff going on. There was a change in political regime in Munich, and the new political party that took over from the previous one that had brought in the Linux distribution across Munich decided that they'd take the Microsoft bribe and go back to Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, that was what we were all, and I guess by we, I mean the people writing these articles, were thinking about the South Korea switch, because they were thinking about doing the same thing. But there was the thought that South Korea was really only courting Linux, or pretending to court Linux, so that they could get a break on some of the Microsoft software that they buy. Do we know what happened?
What it turns out is that they've actually been talking to all the major Linux providers instead of trying to do the Munich mistake.
Oh boy, how cool is that? So that might actually pan out then.
It might. They're still moving forward with that. I think it was us that were cynical that, they're just trying to get a better deal from Microsoft.
Oh,
I
I'm always
don't think
cynical.
anything was in any of the articles saying that. It's just we were putting that on them.
Oh,
so
well, then
I
maybe
think they're
that's
going
me,
ahead.
Well, cool. Maybe I was just being cynical then. That's fine. I'm always cynical though, so that sounds about right.
Let's get cynical.
There you go. All right, and next up, without much fanfare or even information, Backbox Linux 7 is released. So Backbox is in the same vein as Kali Linux or Parrot Linux. These are security auditing types of Linux distributions, and Backbox is a little unique compared to those two. Kali and Parrot are based off of Debian testing. Backbox goes one step further and bases itself off the Ubuntu releases. So Ubuntu 2004 is where Backbox is coming from. The good thing about that is that you have the ability to do things that are Ubuntu specific, like PPAs. The bad thing about that is that you are able to do Ubuntu specific things like add PPAs.
Are we having a two-edged sword here?
Yeah. PPAs are fine. They're fine. But this is cool. So if you're doing any of that type of auditing, you just want a distribution that has all the tools baked right into it. You don't even have to think about it or install it or remember any of this stuff. Backbox with an Ubuntu base is where you want to be if you want Ubuntu. Otherwise, Kali or Parrot, take a look at those. They both had recent releases as well. Now, talk about hardware for a sec. Manjaro is now available on Star Labs laptops. Every single day, we get closer and closer to seeing Linux hardware on a shelf at a Best Buy. And that means that myself and I think it was Eric Leitz in the Telegram, we're going to be right. We're going to be right, gentlemen, eventually.
Well, I don't think you're going to be seeing Star Labs machines in Best Buy.
No, but we saw Fedora on Lenovo. They were already supporting Ubuntu. Dell supports Ubuntu. Just saying, we got lots of big names around Ubuntu.
I will also point out that Star Labs only makes right now an 11-inch and a 13-inch laptop. They're Ultrabooks. They have decent specs, but they're tiny.
What is this? A laptop for ants?
And uncles.
All right. Well, next up, LibreOffice 7 Alpha released. I found this one right before the show started. This is fantastic. So one of the cool things is LibreOffice 7 has huge improvements. Actually, not even LibreOffice 7. The most recent stable version of LibreOffice 6, 6.4 something, 6 maybe, has a lot of additional features for DocX, saving in DocX, reading DocX, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're still on the fence because DocX is trashy, maybe give the newest version a shot to see how it handles your DocX stuff. Will it be 100%? Nah, probably never. But still, it's better now than it was in the past. LibreOffice 7, the alpha is released, so testing only. Don't expect it to work all the time. Has improvements for DocX, has improvements for XLSX. I know that was another big sore spot for a lot of people. And just overall, a lot of squashed bugs and a little bit of performance improvement. So if you're curious, check out the alpha. You can get it as an app image. That's probably the easiest way to do it without borking your system. Give that a go. I think I will over this next week or two just to see if I can get on with it.
When it goes stable, I'll test it according to all the old stuff I used to do that used to really get dicked up when you tried to go from Office to Libra Office and back.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and something that we missed over the last fortnight, we should have included it on the previous show, but we missed it by a couple of days, I think, and that's Inkscape 1.0 is released. So, yeah, fantastic. Those guys have been working really, really hard on just the entire software base. For those of you that might not know, Inkscape is a vector graphics creation tool. So you do your drawing on it, stuff like that, and you're able to scale up that drawing to 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet, and it does not lose any quality. So that tends to be the focus of a lot of that Illustrator software. This is great. Congratulations to them. And one last thing that I had in the news. Linux gains popularity in April. This was a single month explosion in popularity. So generally, Linux hovers around 1 to 2%. Somewhere in there is where you see Linux usage. And as far as I understand, these surveys are done by browser usage and user agent checking when you go to specific websites. And so we're looking at less than 2% Linux usage on these websites, on popular websites. But we saw March at 1.5% Linux usage. And the writer, Steve Von Nichols, could not tell you, and I have no clue either, why it jumped up to 2.8. So we're seeing almost a doubling of Linux usage over a single month. And I know this is a single data point. This is not, representative of the last 5 years or whatever of Linux usage. But what explains that? How do you explain that?
Well, you got everybody stuck at home right now, and all the people that have always said that, if I had more time, I would make the switch to Linux and get all my tools working and see what I could and couldn't do, and now they have time.
That's a great take. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
The weird thing is that all the graphs I've seen shows that most of the uptick is in Ubuntu, and they had a line on the graph that said just Linux, and it was dropping. Now, how can Ubuntu go up and yet overall Linux drops, unless it means other Linux besides Ubuntu or something like that?
I know there's a line in Chromium. I wonder if that, or Chromebook. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I mean, people that would switch to Linux maybe are switching to Chromium or Chromebooks instead, or something like Cloud Ready. I don't actually, I wonder what Cloud Ready shows up as, because it's Chromium OS, but has additional Linux features on it or something like that. I don't know. That'll be interesting to look at. Either way, a surge in usage, and Windows on the same month saw a drop of 2.5%. So, is it? Should I say it? Is this year it? The year of the Linux desktop? No, it's too late. All right. Well, I wanted to pose a question to everybody, and especially us here right now because I'm talking to you. But what do you think needs to happen to move that needle over more? How do we find 3%? How do we find 4%? What does Linux have to do to make that happen?
I think the simple answer.
We need to renew the Novell Linux commercials from the 60s. Hi, I'm a Mac. Hi, I'm a PC.
I think
it needs to come.
The simple answer is that big box stores need to start selling Linux hardware, in the store.
Standard,
Agreed.
Yeah, straight out of the box.
Yeah.
Well, but that's
most
a catch-22, because if they stock them and nobody buys them, then they just stop stocking them. That's what happened before.
If the only thing on the shelf is stuff that runs Linux, then that's what people are going to buy. But no, if it were more common in a big box store. Most people are not going to buy their computer, bring it home, and immediately install a different operating system on it.
No, but if it was already there and it did everything they needed it to, Chromebooks are the example, aren't they? People are buying Chromebooks. They don't know it's Linux under the hood, but, you know, however much it's been tweaked. But if it works for them, they're sticking with it, aren't they?
Look, here's the deal. Here's how you do the Linux thing. I think. Tell me why I'm wrong. So you want Linux right now to compete against something like a Chromebook. Get yourself a touchscreen, make sure it has a keyboard on it, looks like a laptop, whatever, and then just chuck stock Ubuntu on it and just sell it for $199 and let it compete with things like the Pinebook Pro and other Chromebooks. Nobody knows what any of this stuff is anyway. It's just icons to them. It's a Chrome icon
see,
to them.
that's the whole problem. When we had Linux machines in the big box stores before, they were lower spec machines. And so everyone got the idea, well, that only works on lower spec machines.
But
we only, it's not that good, so they didn't bother putting it on a good machine.
Yeah, but a low spec machine today is a lot different to 10 years ago when you got your netbooks.
It's true, but the consumer that doesn't know any different goes into the store and sees this Windows machine has 16 gigs of RAM and this Linux machine has 4 gigs of RAM. Well, why did they do that? I want 16 gigs of RAM.
Well, okay, number one, I honestly don't think that goes through most people's heads that go through. I mean, I used to sell these things for 4 years, for about 4 years, and nobody asked me that. Nobody ever cared about it except to ask, will it be okay to run this software, this software, this software all at the same time? They didn't know what RAM was. They didn't know what the number meant at all. It was, and the second point I'd like to make on that is that those two laptops won't be sitting next to each other. They're going to be sitting next to the Chromebooks and, any other type of low-spec laptop. So the comparison will be pretty apt when you're looking at them, I would say. And the next style over, then you'll have performance boxes.
But we need the Linux machines among the performance boxes too. We need performance Linux machines on those shelves.
Here's what you do.
You
quit selling computers with operating systems.
Oh, everybody would hate you.
I think I think Microsoft has a lot of contracts in that area.
Yeah, but the other thing is, majority of people don't want the hassle of installing their own OS.
That's it.
They want to be able to pick up a laptop in a big box store, take it home, flash it up, and do what they want to do. They don't want to spend the next 2 hours setting it up.
Right next to the computers, you sell USB sticks with operating systems on there that are completely plug and play, as opposed to having to enter in anything.
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine
The
for us,
other
Joe.
problem is that every computer seems to have a different button to push to install that operating system.
Well, that's something that you would have to change.
All right, here's the deal. I got the solution for that. Here's what you do. You got to have a guy at the register that asks the question, do you want to pay whatever the discounted price is, $60 for Windows, or do you want the free Linux? And free is attractive. So that might be the way to do it, and then they ship it off into the corner, and then the Geek Squad guy pushes a couple buttons, and all of a sudden, Ubuntu or Linux Mint or whatever is on it, and then they ship you out with it so you can go home, you plug it in, and you're done.
Yeah, if they're going to install it in store, that's fine.
But again, it's going to be based on the salespeople as whether they have a good idea about Linux or not, because they'll say, well, you'll want to spend the extra $200 for Windows.
That's true.
In theory, all of that might work. Look at Chrome, right? That's pretty much a free operating system.
It is.
But Google has a lot of marketing power, so everybody knows what a Chromebook is. All the kids in schools are using Chromebooks. So when you go to a big box store, what are they going to have for options? It's going to be a PC or it's going to be a Chromebook. Linux, as much as, the free is great. It's a great concept, and people may see that. But at the end of the day, a lot of people don't even know what Linux is.
Right.
And that's a big challenge.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video today by a YouTube channel called The Old Tech Bloke. And he was saying, who runs Linux? And he gave a rundown on the different people, and he's got various kind of things. One was the accidental user. Someone's given them a Linux laptop and they just use it, or they've been set up by a family member. And then you've got the geek, or the distro hopper, someone who's testing things out and deciding whether they like it over Windows or whatever. And then you've got the uber geek who has been on it for years, etc. We are a very small minority of the population that changes OSs just for fun. Even the majority of Linux users go in, use it. They never stick another. So if they've got an Ubuntu box, that is what that's what they've got. They're not going to change the OS. If someone's given them a Linux Mint laptop, they'll run Linux Mint. My next door neighbor runs Linux Mint because he asked me to fix a laptop a few years ago. It didn't have a license key on it, so I stuck Linux Mint on it for him. And ever since, every so often he just gives me the laptop back and says, "Can you update it for me? To the new version." And he's happy with it because it does everything he wants. But he would never have started using Linux if it hadn't been for me.
Right.
He'd have muddled along with Windows.
It's
Probably
about,
a moody version as well.
Yeah. It's about getting it into their hands. You figure out that problem. You figure out Linux's Achilles heel there. Yeah.
It's does it work for you? Can you do everything you want with it? Even if the software's slightly different, so you might have to replace Microsoft Office with Libra Office or whatever. But can I do my jobs that I need to do on the computer? And if you say yes, and you stick a computer in their hands and they can go away and do everything they want to, they're happy.
Exactly.
I'll say yes to that.
I will point out that we are a moderately popular podcast among Linux users. We get over 3,300 people listening every episode.
Yeah, but that's amongst Linux users.
You look at YouTube and see how many of the Windows YouTube casts have over 1 million listeners.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I just had a connection problem. I got cut off. I hope it didn't mess with my feed or anything, but I had to get Mumble restarted.
Yeah, I think we have the same problem that Linux does. I mean, we don't advertise. We just do this for fun, and we have a good time, and we put it out there, and people that know about us, and people that don't, maybe some word of mouth will get around. But I mean, we don't aggressively market. We don't have a Twitter guy that tweets all the funny memes and puns and things like that'll garner you 1,000 followers a day. We just hang out and have fun.
But Linux has already taken over the most important part of the market. It's taken over the data centers and your server, all
the money
all that
makers,
stuff.
The real money makers, yeah.
Mind
where,
you, those
where
are the
there's money
parts
to be
that,
made. Linux there.
But the consumer doesn't even know that.
No,
True.
That's what I'm saying. The place where Linux can make money, we've already taken that over.
And just to add, just to kind of drive that point home, I guess my last point on this is that Microsoft Azure, I think I even mentioned this when the article came out, but Microsoft Azure has reluctantly admitted that more than 50% of all of the VPSs run Linux. So
The last number I saw was 80 on that, and it's over 60 at AWS.
Lord. All right. I mean, but still, right? I mean, is that not? Yeah. To Tony's point, they own that. I mean, the majority of every service provider is Linux,
and that's why Linux skills in that area of technology are highly priced.
Yep. Exactly. All right, we got off on a real big old tangent there. So. So that'll do it for our news, and we'll move on down to the security update. So in this security update, I'm going to blame, I'm just taking a wild guess, Joe, for adding this one for us.
Wrong.
Oh, was it UMass?
It was.
Awesome. This is a fantastic story. Do you know much about it?
No, but I knew you'd want to dig into it.
Oh, I would. I did. It's so good. All right. So last episode, last 0.0 episode, we talked about GitLab. Now, GitLab did the right thing, right? There was a whole bug. GitLab fixed it and then announced it and blah, 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 right? Everything was hunky-dory on that. Nobody got hurt. Well, the opposite happened today. Well, not today, but recently to GitHub. So Microsoft, right? So the owner of GitHub, Microsoft's private GitHub accounts were hacked and 500 gigabytes of data was stolen. Through research, they found that this happened right around the end of March, like March 28th or something like that. They caught wind of it a little later on in April and confirmed a couple of days ago. What is it? I think it said May 8th-ish. Yeah, May 8th. Confirmed, a Microsoft employee confirmed that the data leak was real. So, over about a month and a half, it turns out some accounts got compromised on the Microsoft side. They got into the GitHub and they stole a bunch of private stuff. Now, here's the thing. What did they steal? I think all of this stuff was leaked, as in it's just out there for someone to go, to go and see. But what was it? I didn't actually take a look into what it actually was. So, any guesses?
Various operating systems.
My thought? It was Notepad. Oh, it was WordPad. 500 gigabytes of data, and it was just WordPad.
Calculator.
You know,
Well,
I said
way
ahead.
back when I had a Windows developer account, and yeah, you could get all of their software and download it, and you could get all their various different operating systems. Back then, it was all like you could get the first version of Windows 10 and all the way back to XP.
Yeah.
So
That would
and-
be something of its old program code for Windows.
and
would be.
it was just the different versions that came out, like the different update versions and the different images for before this version came out. We had this ISO image and yeah, so probably something like that.
Here we go. Check it out. Here's my cynical take on this. Microsoft did it on purpose so that they could argue in court that the wine guys stole their code. Like, as in, not as in they were the perpetrators of the GitHub attack, but that they looked at the code because it was public and then used that code, and then we'll try to use that to shut wine down. I still
Well,
feel like Microsoft is out there, being devious, but I don't know.
I don't know if they can say that since wine was around before the leak.
Well, I mean, like, Wine 5.7 is out right now, so when 5.8 comes out, they're like, look at that code. That code is new, and it's ours, and you stole it.
Yeah. And then they
Well,
show
even if
it
it's
was an
old
iterative
code,
update.
Even if it's old code and it shows Microsoft's code, that would make a stronger court case.
Well, yeah, that's me being cynical. This is probably not true at all, but I mean, if I'm gonna write a detective novel, it's gonna be about that. All right, well, that's about it for the security update. So that means we get to move down to Linux innards. So in this Linux innards, we make good on the promise that we made. I don't have a date on that, but a while ago, and that was to bring more members of our community on, just to have a chat. And I mean, secretly, we got a million questions to grill you on.
So we can intimidate you and make you feel bad, and you'll stop listening to the show.
we honestly hope the opposite happens. But we'd like to introduce to you someone that you've already heard if you heard the first half of this show, Scott. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. I've been listening to you guys for quite a long time now.
Awesome. Long-time listener, first-time caller, huh?
Yes.
I love
How
it.
long were you listening to Rob and Isaac?
I started off with they're the last guest host. They're the last hosts of the show, right?
Hmm.
Before
And
us, yes.
yeah, I was listening to them. I probably listened to about maybe 30 or 40 episodes.
Wow, and we managed to retain you thus far.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Well, I guess we'll dive right into it. The whole idea here is we wanted to bring you on, and we want to bring other community members on as well, just to kind of get a feel for why they use Linux and how they use Linux, and just some various questions that we've got that would just be interesting to pick your brain on. So if you're ready, we'll just dive right in.
Absolutely. Shoot.
All right. So the first question that we got is, when was the first time you ever saw or noticed Linux?
As I said earlier, right? A friend of mine mentioned Ubuntu years ago, and this is, I'd say, 2010ish time frame. I didn't know what it was. Didn't start looking into it until around 2015, where I started to get frustrated with my laptop I had. I had Windows on it, running slow, and then I started to do a lot more, research into looking for, which Linux distro is the best. I didn't realize that there was hundreds of distros out there. But around that time too, I started watching Mr. Robot with my son, and that was watching him on Kali Linux, and that was very intriguing to me. And so that's kind of when I started to really start looking into it a lot more.
That's really awesome. I've heard a lot of that about the Mr. Robot thing. How you see it, you're curious about it. Maybe you knew what Linux was before that, maybe you didn't. But yeah, that sparks some interest. So have you finished the show?
I have. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great show. I love I think his name's Mally, and I think he's a great actor. And I think the show, uh, I think that I guess when I look at it from an artistic standpoint, like the Stanley Kubrick films and stuff, the camera angles on how they shoot the show, I thought was just it was done so well, and I thought the plot was great, and um, it was just intriguing the overall watching the whole thing. So if you haven't seen it, you have to watch the show. It's a great show.
I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't finished it. I think I got done with the first season and then got distracted by 7 million other shows. But I've always meant to go back and watch it. So this might be the last kick in the pants I need to finish it up.
I
Yeah.
started watching it myself, and I just got turned off by the heavy use of drugs in it.
I think I'm partway through the second season. I have
Oh,
to
okay.
go
I need to
back and
catch
see
up.
where I'm at.
All right. Well, you don't have to give us any specifics or anything like that. But round whereabouts are you from?
I'm in the New England area.
Very interesting. That does explain a little bit of the accent that I hear. I'm sure my Texan comes out all the time.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a Boston type of accent. So
That's it.
I'm
Yep. I didn't know exactly where it was from, but I knew it was a little familiar. That's cool. That's very interesting.
Did you grow up wanting to work for digital?
No, I did not.
Well, that was the only computer company based in Massachusetts.
Yep, digital, and then you get that one big company goes under, and then you look at Polaroid, another big company in Massachusetts, another one that didn't change with times, and look where they're at, and so it's a shame when you see such big companies that's done a lot go under like that.
Well, the next question we got for you is, we know that you didn't dive into it right then and there when you first learned about Linux. So when did you dive in, or how did you figure out how you wanted to dive in there?
So I took a new job, and they had a good deal purchase on with Lenovo laptops, and so I bought one. And surprisingly enough, this was around, I'd say, 2017. It came with Windows 7 on it. It wasn't even Windows 10. So I had to go through the upgrade and get it up to the Windows 10 operating system right away. And it took like 3 to 4 hours to do this whole thing. And
Wow.
it was so frustrating. And so I used it. I used it for a long time. And then I started to just get frustrated with one update that it took like 3 tries for it to work. And then I said, I'm done. And so I started to look through the dual boot options. So I was a dual booter at the beginning, and it wasn't um, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would to set up a dual boot laptop. It did take me it took me some time, and the biggest concern I had was me losing Windows, because to recover it, to bring it back to normal factory default, it's just a chore, and I just cannot. It's very frustrating to sit there and you put it on the kitchen counter and it goes for hours trying to do all the updates. So I got the dual boot going, and then it went through an update, and then I was like, I was done. I took out the stick, I booted from the USB, and I wiped it all out. And ever since then, I always single system on my computer. I'm not like Moss. I don't have 9 distributions. I only have my one, which I either
Be nice. I'm down to 5 across 2 machines.
No one's like Moss.
So I have Linux Mint. I have Cinnamon on it. I had on my Lenovo. I also had Cinnamon on it. And then I ran into some hardware challenges, and I still haven't been able to resolve it. I think there's a motherboard hardware problem that's causing the M.2 drive to overheat, and I haven't been able to resolve that problem yet. So I had a spare HP EliteBook, wiped out Windows on it, installed Cinnamon. I played around with Mate before, and I played around with Xfce. But I always like going back to Cinnamon only because the laptop's powerful enough to handle it very easily. I think one of the things I like the most is the slideshow on the desktop, because the photos that it comes with they're brilliant. It's great.
Is that the cinnamon spice desktop widget thing?
No, it's just the standard randomizer background.
Oh,
that
for the wallpaper. I see. I got you.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Just the wallpaper. Pretty simple. It's just one of the things I like about it, and it's done well. I've also played around with Conky. I built a couple desktop PCs, one of them a home theater PC, and I fooled around with installing Conky on it to get all the stats that show up on the desktop. Took me a while to figure it out, but I was able to get that working well. It's neat seeing all the temperatures and the hard drives and the CPU usage right there on the desktop when everything's shut down. So
Yeah, I haven't heard the name Conky in a long time, and the only thing I ever associate with that name is really difficult to set up.
yeah, it wasn't straightforward, and for me to get the right tags to pull up the temperatures of the hard drives and the CPU, I had to do a lot of Googling to find that. Not Googling, but DuckDuckGo, and I was able to get
There you go.
Yeah, I try and get Google out of as much as I can out of my life, but on my smartphone, it's as I mentioned that, Google heard me and started recording what I was saying.
Oh no.
Yeah, I turned that aspect off on my Android, and it keeps trying to turn itself back on, or suggest that I turn it back on. Your Google Assistant is ready to run. Would you please activate?
Please, please, please let me advertise to you.
So it's been great. You know, I built. I think I have like 6 machines at the house that has something on it for Linux. Unfortunately, I'm the primary user of all of it. My son had a Windows computer that we bought from one of the local big box stores over here, and it was low on the specs, and it was just so slow. He just needed it for school stuff, and we wiped it out, put on Linux Mint, and he's able to get his work done
That
pretty
is
easily.
that is really awesome. So my 4-year-old daughter is kind of in a similar boat, but she's never actually seen Windows, so she doesn't know what she's missing. And I'm using the password feature of Mint to teach her how to, number one, how to keyboard, and number two, how to spell. So yeah, her passwords are real simple words, and yeah, if she wants to use the computer, she's got to know how to spell that word. So it's interesting stuff, man. So I see that you've got a Pi down here. What do you do with that thing?
So one day I think I heard it on a show. It could have been this show. It could have been a different Linux show I was listening to, and I said I got to look into what this $35 computer is. So I ended up buying a 3B, I think it is, a 3 Plus. Bought one. I ended up fooling around with it. Bought a camera peripheral for it. I had that set up for motion activation. It's not running right now, but it was just fun to tinker with. My daughter used to play Minecraft quite a bit, so I found a website. It was like a 30-step install to make a headless Minecraft server for use on our local network here, and I was able to get that set up and had that set up for her. I played around with it. I had Minecraft on the computer, and just to test it out and get it to work, and it worked great. It's very low power. It's tiny. It can sit on my TV stand where my router is, and now my switch. That listening to you guys on Telegram and getting some advice to what to buy, I ended up buying an 8-port managed switch, and I ended up freeing up a lot of Ethernet ports off my router. So both of those Raspberry Pis have been connected to that, and when she's wants to play again, we'll start it back up.
That's really cool. Man, I can't get enough of pies, and the new one that I got, it's gonna be endless hours of fun. I love them. So I'm gonna release the reins a little bit and let Joe take over this next one.
Okay. What's a typical workflow for you? What does that entail?
Can you explain to me what that is? What are you referring to?
You sit down to do something new on a Linux system. What's that entail?
Most of the time when I use my laptop, I'm surfing the web. I know for a while I built my desktop where I was taking my brother's DVD and Blu-ray collection and digitizing it for him. So I had a Handbrake and I think it was Make DVD system set up where I was just burning discs like nonstop. Like I'd be sitting at home, and that thing would run continually about 40 minutes, 40 minutes a disc. And I ended up filling up like a couple terabytes of space on. He had hundreds of
I hope you
DVDs.
were doing that in the wintertime, because man, your box will heat up while it's doing transcoding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I watched the temperature. It was up there. I had to buy what can I remember it? It's a pretty large fan that sits right on top of the cooler, pulls up all the heat from the. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I was able to cool it down like another 12 or 13 C.
Wow.
by doing that. So it worked out pretty good.
So-
I got like 5 fans built into this custom desktop I built.
Can I just ask a question?
Yep.
Is that an internal or an external Blu-ray reader that you're using?
Both of them were external. So I had a DVD one that I had from a previous company that closed, and then I bought a Blu-ray player. So I was using the DVD one to just do the DVDs, and then when I need to read write, and I'll get into that later on the interview, but the Blu-ray one I was able to just do from there. It had a dual port USB.
Right. And was there any problem with Handbrake digitizing the Blu-rays, or did it do it out the box?
So I had to use Make DVD to make that happen on the Blu-rays.
Right.
Handbrake couldn't do it. I used Handbrake to compress to reduce some of the space because, I wasn't keeping it at the highest resolution because to the naked eye on my TV, I can't see the difference between 1080 and 720. So
Yeah.
I wanted to save space. I bought a couple refurbished HGSTs, 4 terabyte drives.
Oh, those are so fantastic. I loved HGST.
Take the plunge and buy a refurbished one. They sell for like $60 to $80.
Wow.
On Amazon.
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
I might consider that because that's 2 drives for the price of one new one.
Yep, I bought both of those for I think $75 or $78.
I think I spent on a 4 terabyte HGST DeskStar. It was their DeskStar NAS line. I think it was 140 or 150 each, and I ended up with 3 of them over time. But yeah, that would have saved me a lot of money.
Yeah, 7,200 RPM. Thing's great.
Okay, so one more question. Are you a GUI guy or a terminal guy?
I like fooling around on the terminal. Usually I'll perform 4 commands all the time. I'll do the sudo update command, upgrade. I'll do an auto clean and an auto remove. Typically, every week or so. But I fooled around with the terminal in terms of doing, I think I talked to you guys about it on the IP tables, just to see the network, and I just stumbled across that. That was pretty cool. But the one parts I do have trouble with, and I still go to the GUI section, is when they do a new kernel coming out, because I don't know the command off the top of my head to do the kernel update, because it is different than just the sudo app update command, because it usually never does that, and it stays in as what I call the shield icon up in the tray.
I did notice you're still using apt-get, and
Yeah.
I will point out that in Mint, apt is exactly the same as apt-get. It's actually a alias for apt-get.
Yeah, I know that. I know when they changed it from one of the versions. I just have it, and I just use the up arrow key to just fire off the commands.
And you can always use that double ampersand to chain commands.
I've done that too for the sudo apt update and the sudo app upgrade too. I've done that too.
I didn't think I was educating you, but there are some people listening that might want to hear that.
True that. Now, I've always thought that apt needed to have a single command to do that. I don't know why they never added one.
Well, if you don't like it, go get a DNF version of something.
I did. I actually
Yes,
did.
I definitely, on OpenMandriva, it just freaked me out that I do sudo DNF update, and it does the update, says, oh, you've got updates. Do you want to install them? You just hit Y, and it goes ahead and does them. And if there's anything needs to be cleaned, it does that for you, and you're done. Yeah,
yeah, I think a DNF does have the ability to do the equivalent of apt update, but I mean, if you're doing a DNF DNF update, then it just does it all for you anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Apt needs one of those.
Okay, I think I'll take the next one. So, Scott, I think I know the answer from some of the things you've already said, but does Linux do everything that you need in an operating system?
It does. When I first installed it and started to, fool around, I did do the live stick for a while just to test it out until, I'm like, this stick isn't going to last because it heats up pretty good when you're running it off the stick. But Libra Office, I use Microsoft Office at work. It's different commands. Sometimes different setups. You got to go to a different place to do a pivot table versus in Microsoft Office. Write letters. It does everything I need from an Office perspective. I surf the web. I love Firefox. It's a great web surfing app. I you know I usually don't have any issues with anything that I need to do on it. The only challenge I had was going away from Windows to this was I used to use a stock trading program with the brokerage service I was part of, and they don't offer it for Linux. And I wasn't even going to try to get it to work in Wine or some other emulator for it, but um, it's okay. I just go back and use the web tool to do what I need to do on it. But other than that, I mean, everything that I want to do, it works. It's fast. Um, I think my computer can boot in less than 50 seconds. With That's with me typing in the password, and until the shield comes up. So
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
that's
pretty
fast.
quick. Gaming wise, I've done a few games on here. Like I bought on GOG and I bought Baldur's Gate. Just to reminisce because I remember the days over a decade ago. My wife and I would sit at the computer and play it. Because it was, it's one of those fun. I think I still to this day think it was the best RPG on the computer.
I always liked Icewind Dale better.
I played that too, but
Oh,
I just
and,
really like the Baldur's Gate series the most out of all of it.
and probably the best old school like PC RPG is still going to be Arcanum.
I've never played that one.
Oh, you should check it out. Graphics are
That
horrible, but the story is awesome.
sounds like something I want to check out too. Huh. Okay.
And
Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic, if I remember right.
I'll have to check that out. I just recently bought Ultima, and that was going back to when I was, 14 years old with my Apple IIe computer, and I was able to get that to work in Wine on this. Not the easiest thing to do, but I was able to get it to work, and I was able to play it a little bit. It cost like $5 on GOG, so it was cheap just to try and reminisce back to those days.
Can't beat that.
Yeah. But one of the challenges I did have, so on my desktop that I was ripping the computer, I had one of the Witcher games that I bought. It was, again, another cheap game just to try it out. And I had the hardest time to get the libraries in there for it to run properly because I believe it needed the 32-bit libraries. And uh, and I just couldn't get it to go. And then for some reason, I was able to redo the whole thing, put it on, and then I was able to play it. And then for some reason, I get to one place and it locks up. So I still haven't got through that issue with it. And it's one of those time things. Do I do that or do I go out golfing? Maybe I go out golfing.
Yeah. Sometime.
Especially now in the summer. And then then the last thing I did really, after hearing a lot of podcasts about VPNs. So I've been a PIA user for a long time, since I've started. So it's been almost 3 years now. And I know that they got bought out. And I've heard you guys talk about it. Right now, I'm not too concerned yet. But you know, it was $100 for 3 years. Yeah, if I don't like it, I'll go to Proton.
Yeah, well, good, because that's really kind of that's pretty much my exact thought process too. I think I buy the year, so I probably spend an extra dollar or so more than you do, but um, I've got a lot of PIA time left, and I don't know that this acquisition bothers me enough that I would do that. But I don't know. The more I read into this, the more I realize that the company that bought them out, Knape or whatever, used to be named something else, and that company was tied to malware distribution. So I don't know. The more I learn about it, the more I'm less happy about that acquisition. But is it enough?
Yeah, well,
It
the
might be.
thing that gets me is who are the people behind it, that they were originally secret forces of the Israeli police, and I don't have a problem with Israel people. I really don't. But governments I have problems with, not people. And these people would not be leaking things to the open internet. They'd be leaking things to the CIA or NSA.
Well, the unfortunate thing about us here
And
in the
you wouldn't find
U.S.
out about it.
is that the Senate just passed a bill that will allow the government to look at all of your browsing history. So,
The House hasn't passed it yet.
You're right. You're right. It's not law yet, but the fact that it got past either of the houses, not fun.
Well, the main thing is that it's flying under the radar. Everyone's worried about getting sick.
Exactly. So, anyway, Joe, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I've also been a PIA user for a few years now, and I'm choosing to trust them until they prove that they can't be trusted, and then I'll switch away. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I went with them in the first place, was because PIA proved that it could be trusted.
Right. And I've not heard anything about they really are having logs. I imagine PIA was on one of the top of the lists for being one of the most secure VPNs out there. I imagine those list keeping groups would be the first to sound off that PIA was not what it says it was anymore. So I'm listening for it. And the day that it comes out, I'll probably jump ship. But until then,
That kind of sounds like I will trust them until the NSA throws me in jail, and then I'll change my VPN.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I doubt that anybody's going to come after me first. It's not like, I'm doing anything that would possibly cause giant red flags with the U.S. government.
Yeah. All right, Moss, you want to take the next one?
I guess I could. Do you contribute it all back to the community?
So from a bugs perspective, usually I don't run into any bugs. So I haven't contributed in that way yet. I do visit the forums. I do log in and I have posted questions, and I think I've actually answered a few or provided a couple suggestions to what things I have learned over the years of using it as I guess, a layman type of user to Linux. I usually contribute once a year, usually right around Christmas. I'll do a PayPal donation to Linux Mint because I think it's honestly it's a great operating system. I love it, and I hope they continue with it for as long as they can. Um, I guess my only other contribution is trying to convert people. I I'm the I would say I'm the tech support, as I've been called. I'm the geek squad, coming to help my family out when they have an issue, or my neighbors.
We know that
And
feeling.
yeah, and my mother-in-law, she had an old HP all-in-one computer, and she's like, Scott, it's taking 15, 20 minutes for me to even boot up, and then I can't really even do anything. And I'm like, okay, I'll come over, I'll take care of it. And so I bought a new hard drive, SSD, for like $20 from Amazon, 120 gigs. Installed it. This machine, I think it either had 4 gigs of RAM or 6 gigs of RAM. I can't remember. put Linux Mint on it, put Mate on it because I wanted to make sure it was
Yay!
not using too much resources, and it was pretty quick for her. So that computer, I was able to take from a 15 to 20 minute boot to less than 45 seconds after I installed it.
Nice.
I got her web browser set up with all of her links that she needed, and I told her, here's the most important thing. When you see that shield without a check mark on it, go in there and click update and put your password in and do all the updates whenever you see it's not there. And to this day, I honestly, the only thing I had to go over there was to get a printer set up for it. And it was just it was a little bug in there. It just wasn't working, and I was able to fix it for her. So I guess from a contribution perspective, I'm just trying to get as many people on it. Just recently, a friend of mine just put it on his computer for his kids. So,
You mentioned your mother-in-law's touchscreen even worked right out of the box with Mint.
and it worked right out of the box with Mate, no problem. I was able to use the finger and double click on icons, get things to open up, and do it that way. So it worked really well.
Yeah, I really want to point out that everything on your list is absolutely contributions, and I think there's a lot of people out there that might not know that even asking a genuine question is contributing, because you're getting someone to come out of the woodwork that would not normally have answered that question otherwise to answer that question, and it'll help the next guy and the next girl and the next guy and the next girl figure out what the heck is going on and how to fix something. So yeah, those are fantastic contributions. Joe, next up.
Oh, okay. I'm asking another question. Is there any piece of open source software other than a browser that you could not live without?
I've adapted to everything, to be honest. As much as I had the subscription to Microsoft Office for years, $100 a year, 5 computers at the house, I decided to just wipe it out, stop doing that. I bought the version for my wife to use on her computer because she uses it for work sometimes, so she needed Microsoft Office. So I'm able to adapt to LibreOffice, no problem. Very easy to use. The only thing I had trouble with at the beginning, because I couldn't find a good solution for it, was I did a lot of photography too. I had Canon DPP software to do the editing, similar to like Adobe, right, to do photo editing. But Darkroom does what I need. It's great. And again, I mentioned before, it was the stock trading software, which, it's okay. I can live without for something that I enjoy using, and don't have to worry about Windows, doing what it needs to do on its own and causing havoc.
Have you tried out P3X OneNote?
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's Flatpak, I believe, but it's a version of OneNote, the web version, in a wrapper for Linux. But you can also use like Word in there, so and basically everything Microsoft.
Yeah, we've done so at work I do use OneNote here and there to collect meeting minutes, for example. But typically a Word file is good enough for me.
Well, I meant for your wife.
Oh, for my wife. Oh, there's no way she would not go on to here. She plays certain games that I have no idea if it's going to work, and I'd have to do some testing to make sure it does. But I think unless the computer breaks, I do have a spare laptop ready to go with Linux on it, and then she might just have to.
Ooh, hey!
I know everyone expects me to say this, but you could save your wife some money if you're buying Office every year.
Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes. Have you tried SoftMaker Office? It is $80 for the first time. They update like every 2 years, and it's $40.
No, I haven't done that, but what I did was I bought the 2016 Microsoft Office outright, so I got a single license.
Okay.
So it's not going to update really, but it's good enough for her to work on a docx or a Excel file or a PowerPoint.
Well, SMO
without
does
issue.
work on those things, but nonetheless, I just had to open my mouth because everyone expected me to by now. And they also, for Windows, it's also sold as a shampoo office, and there are frequently heavy discounts.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
So on the gaming side, now it doesn't sound like your wife will be a convert anytime soon. But if you're gonna test, if the games are Steam games, Proton is pretty decent. Do you know what where they come from?
Oh, the game. I think she plays like Scrabble and games like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's not playing like a RPG or a first-person shooter or something like that. No, she plays a lot of Scrabble type games out there, and they are standalone apps. And so I'm not sure yet. I haven't tried to install it on my computer and use it because it's probably a .exe. I'll have to see if it would work on the Wine
Yeah.
and get that to work.
Surely there's some Lutris shenanigans you can use to make it all work. But yeah, one day, maybe one day.
So, Scott, just some closing thoughts for the audience who may be Windows users out there. If they're getting tired of Windows and want something faster and more secure, what would you say they should look for?
You know, I think this, right? At the end of the day, from my experience with Linux, is one, I don't need to go buy a brand new computer. First of all, I can buy a computer that's 6 years old used for $100 or a couple $100. Install Linux on it, and it's going to work great. It's
Yeah.
going to be faster than what Windows had on it. It's simple to use, and to be honest, to install Linux, I think the fastest I've got it done is like 12 or 13 minutes. I've been up and running after an install. You can't get that with Windows. It's hours. So my big thing is if you surf the web, if you're just doing your online banking, going on Facebook, looking at YouTube, you don't need a Windows machine to do it. You can buy a used machine, put Linux on it, and do all of those things and save yourself a lot of money. And even if it's slower, just buy a SSD, put it in for $20, and you'll be up and running, and it'll be a blazing fast computer. And I've done that on a neighbor's computer, my in-laws as an example, but I just don't think you need to shell out $1,000 anymore for a computer when you can buy a used one, rip out the hard drive, and you'll be up and running.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah. Yeah, it just sometime in the past, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, we passed that threshold of computers are fast enough, so you don't have to throw them away or get rid of them or anything like that. They can be repurposed.
Yeah, the last Windows computer I stuck Mint on, I think was 7 or 8 years old, and it ran like a dream once I'd stuck an SSD in it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I have 2 computers downstairs in my basement that are probably a decade old. I haven't tried it out yet, but eventually when I get some time, maybe in the winter coming up, I'll see if I can get Linux on it and get it working well.
Yeah, I've got an old Lenovo 200 here that runs Linux like a dream. Its maximum RAM is 4 gig. It's only a Core 2 Duo, but it runs Linux great.
That's
fantastic.
Yeah, the HP, the home theater PC I built has a Celeron processor on it. It's very low end. I think I built the whole thing with the case, no graphics card in it for less than $200. And I think I have 4 gigs of RAM in it, and that's it. And I use it to log on to my TV and go on the internet with a PC hooked into it through an HDMI cable, and it works great.
I've got a similar system actually. It's a Celeron J1900, and I got nothing to do with it anymore. It used to be a HTPC for me. My daughter used to use it for a little while to watch some videos, and now it's just kind of sitting in a corner because I have a different computer that she's using now. So I did consider making that my recording box as well. I just need me some Wi-Fi, I think. But yeah, man, Celerons run surprisingly well on Linux, whereas on the Windows counterpart, okay is probably an overstatement.
So I guess my one last thought, and I'll tell you, I really appreciate coming onto the show. I was glad that you guys, took me up on the suggestion to come on. It's interesting to see how this is put together too. I found that very interesting, but I'm hoping that some other folks in the community that may not be involved that much with computers but have tried Linux to come on and share their experiences, because to tell you the truth, there's a lot to learn from everybody here. And I've learned a lot over the years, especially listening to your podcast, listening to others. And, I think I have about 75 links of Linux stuff on my browser that I keep just in case. You never know when I have to go back and what are the top 10 things to do after a fresh install. I go to it and see what I need to do on it and take care of it. There's so much information, and the community is just great.
Be careful, Scott. We might want to make you a regular.
Yeah, I do want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a fantastic conversation. I love kind of getting to know. I mean, number one, just getting to know people that have been around in the Telegram channel or whatever. But as well, just kind of getting your unique perspective on what Linux is to you, why you use it, and like you're kind of in the same situation that I am, where my wife would never use it, but I use it all the time, and it's all over the house. So yeah, I do appreciate you coming on and everything. So thank you for that.
You're all missing a trick. I support my wife's PC, and I said to her over 10 years ago, before we were married, that if you want me to support your computer, it has to have Linux on it.
Get the evil eye for that one, man.
Well,
and she's been running purely Linux for the last 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
Well, the pleasure was all mine, guys, today. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Scott.
If you want, hang out a little bit through the vibrations, and we'll talk just a tidbit more at the end of the show.
I'm there.
And if you have any comments to add on the vibrations, please do.
Will do.
All right, well, that'll wrap up the interview with Scott. Thank you again. But for now, we'll move down to vibrations from the ether. So we had a few emails. Like this is another one of those weeks where I'm debating on cutting some out and moving it over to the next show, but I don't know. We'll see how fast we can get through this. So this one, I wasn't actually sure if it was an ad or not. It seemed like a person on the other end, but it was hawking their own stuff, which is fine. I ended up reading the article, and it was good advice. So I decided to add it here, ad or not. It's fine. It's good stuff. So this is Bill from Pixel Privacy. He said he noticed you shared EFF's HTTPS Everywhere extension here, and he linked a episode that was years and years and years ago, 161. This is why that my little radar went off. Because we get those messages all the time where they'll just be comments on 12-year-old episodes of the podcast, and it's like, are you a bot? I can't tell.
And
anyway,
I have a wonderful product I can sell you because you're using this.
Yeah, lucky for us, there's nothing being sold directly on the link that he sends, but keep your eyes peeled. I run with an ad blocker, so who knows? Yeah, so keep an eye out on that website. But it was good information no matter what. It was talking about why you should use a VPN, why you should just do basic encryption on the traffic, and all of that kind of fun stuff. Let me see. Oh yeah, to add passwords to your router. Yeah, he says use a VPN, use HTTPS everywhere, use the Tor browser. use encrypted messaging. So there's a lot of good advice in this article. So yeah, I would definitely go say and check this out. And he said, perhaps you could share a link to my guide alongside the EFS link. So I don't know that anybody would actually go and look at episode 161 ever again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it here in the feedback so that anybody that is interested to this can take a look. So I responded back. I said, I read through it. Looks like good advice. I'll share it on the show tomorrow.
Translation, I'm going to leave it here in the show notes.
Very true. So next up was Eric, and to Scott's point about want to hear more from other community members. Yeah. So Eric says, "Hi guys, listening to the latest episode 334.5, and since you're calling out to the community, I would be willing and excited to come on the show if you're interested in using Mint in a small business setting. In our engineering company, we switched fully to Linux Mint last November, but some of my staff has been on Mint for over a year. It's been pretty smooth, although we've had a few bumps along the way. We do a lot of work using Libra Office for general documents and PDF editing, and our designs are on CAD, GIS, and 3D design software. Although most of those are using a VM running in Windows 7, so I have small business experience working with VMs. Thanks." So this is awesome. We've had a few conversations with Eric in Telegram, kind of getting his perspective on stuff. But yes, this is absolutely something that we want to take you up on, Eric. So yeah, we'll see if we can't figure out a time. And just to say, I know I mentioned Dale's coming on in a couple episodes, but there's also one other that threw her hat into the ring. That's Fuzzy. So we may be seeing a little bit of her as well.
You have nowhere to go but up from here.
I think we have a lot to do, and we're gonna have a lot of fun doing it. This is gonna be good.
Well, it's like Rob said a few weeks ago to us that if he knew it was this easy, he would have quit a long time ago.
All right, next up we have one from Scott T. Not this Scott, different Scott. So he says, "Hello, I was listening to your latest show and heard the confusion about the Ubuntu website. This has definitely confused me in the past, so I thought I'd send you a link that clears it up. Basically, Ubuntu.me is the official site, and one individual is keeping Ubuntu.net going, confusing users." Yeah, no joke, right? We spent, 5 minutes on the last show trying to muddle through figuring it out? Yeah, so it confused at least 4 of us. And he's got a link to the mailing list that discusses the whole shenanigans. I don't think I responded to that one. So I will respond to you exactly what I said. Thank you. And next up, John Wallace. The John Wallace saga.
Have we ever heard from this guy before? It sounds vaguely familiar.
I think we have. I don't think this is his first time writing in. Why do you ask?
I don't know. It just seemed John Wallace. Where have I heard that name before?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Scott T. Yeah, John Wallace. Yeah. I think we've heard him on the last show, and the last show, and the last show, and the last show. No, but I love it because he's got really good information, and this one is a stumper.
And we are not putting you down, John. Please keep writing.
No, feedback's great.
Please do. And I mean, because, if we don't dive into deep things in the Linux innards, I mean, John Wallace, you are our source of really interesting and technical topics. So yeah, keep them coming. I love them. Anyway, he says, "Hello, Leo. I would appreciate your guidance on the following, please. I have made changes to Etsy syscontrol.conf, adding the following. So net IPv4 conf default log Martians 1, and those are the same. Maybe they were supposed to be IPv6. Maybe I'm not reading it right. But anyway, yeah, so he made some changes, and then use syscontrol-P to make the change permanent. A line of scan carried out at this point reflects that the changes were made. However, each scan done upon reboot seems to indicate that these changes are lost. I'm looking forward to hearing from you." So, I don't know, because adding things into syscontrol.conf should make them permanent. That is... That is the answer. So, I'm not sure. I'm gonna give this a little bit more thought and a little bit more doing, I guess, and see if I can't figure an answer out for you. This is a true blue stumper. So how do
Yeah.
you make the xcsyscontrol.conf settings permanent if what he mentioned doesn't do it?
Yeah, I haven't seen that issue before either. I'd probably just script out changing that file every time I logged in with rc.local.
Yeah, that might be a decent way to do it.
No, that's not a decent way to do it. That's a cheap, horrible, hacky way to do it. But it
Right.
gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking maybe like an Anacron job or something like that. But again, you're running into a situation where for the first 5-10 minutes of being on, you're not. It's not actually. You know what? No. There are keywords in cron. All right. So again, a hacky way to fix it. You can write the script just talking about, which is literally just the command to make that change. Oh well, no. I guess you couldn't do that because it's in a configuration file.
Right. You'd have to use some some piping into
Also,
your greater than
right.
either that or overwrite it completely.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm going with this. So, all right. So again, cheap hacky. This is not really my real recommendation, but it will work. If you copy the syscontrol.conf file and name it syscontrol.conf.backup and just leave it there in Xfce, you can do a cron job that that runs at reboot. Instead of doing, like 50000 whatever to tell it when to do it, you can just do it at reboot. So the at symbol and then the word reboot instead of the time. And every reboot, you can then run the command cp syscontrol.conf.backup to syscontrol.conf. That will do it. But again, a bit of a hacky way to get around it.
Yeah, and you got to do it as root too. So you'd use the sudo cron.
Sudo cron tab e, yeah. All right, so I'll write that out, John, to you, and then send that to you as a stopgap, and then I'll dig in a little bit more to figure out what the heck is going on with that thing. So there is one more that I didn't put in the notes that I will copy over here in just a sec, but I had mentioned that Henrik had sent us in some feedback, and so here it is. Comment on the website, he says, in parallel with you testing and talking about Ubuntu Studio, another friend recommended me to try it, so I may well test it. Right now, I test Elementary besides my Mint. Ubuntu Studio has photography as one target, with some software installed. For example, GIMP, Shotwell, and Darktable. My question to you, is there any other distro with photography in focus, and maybe with even more photography focus than Ubuntu Studio has? So does anybody know of any photography-based Linux distributions?
Can't say that I know anything that has more than Studio. I've heard of individual programs being pushed that are not on that list.
You may want to go to the Telegram channel for Biddle, Big Daddy Linux Live, and ping Wendy Hill, who's a professional photographer. She uses Linux for all her photography needs, and she may know of something.
Yeah, while not a distro, I do have some basic software suggestions. Not that I know that you will use these, but just some ones to check out. There's if you're doing like DSLR photo taking and then importing those photos in, you might want to look at a software called Raw Therapy and Digicam. So because Ubuntu Studio is eventually going to move over to Plasma, I think that's going to happen in 2010, so around October, Digicam may be one thing that you really do want to check out because it is Qt-based, it's KDE-based, so it will just nestle right into the rest of all your other software. You had mentioned Darktable, which is another professional style. And then I think GIMP was probably my last one that I looked up. So yeah,
and that's Raw
GIMP.
Therapy with 2 E's.
Yes, definitely. Lost my spot. All right, so I'll get that in the show notes, but that'll do it, at least for now, on the feedback. Oh, wait. No, it won't. There's another one I didn't put in there. So,
Shame
Michael,
on you, Leo.
I know, it's my fault. Michael, I didn't forget about you. Okay, no, I take that back. I did forget about you, but I almost made it in the actual main section, but it'll be in there. Anyway, Michael, he had sent us an email detailing some information that our website is looking a little off. We had kind of discussed some of these things in some of our pre-show meetings, not in any of the shows that I know of, but there were a couple of things that were coming up. There was a mixed content error that so when you went to the mintCast website, it would give you a padlock, but it would be with the little yellow exclamation point, and if you dug into that, you would realize that it was telling you that some images on our website was being pulled from a non-secure website. So that turned out to be the Apple Podcast logo that we had on the website that was being pulled from another website that did not have encryption on it. So it wasn't anything to worry about, but I can certainly see why it might have concerned you. Anyway, so we removed that image off, and it should be fixed. That issue should be fixed up right then. And then he had another suggestion about TLS. We had 1.0 on and moved it up, so we are not getting any of those TLS errors anymore. So yeah, we're in the 21st century now. Yay! So we still got one more thing to do. The Mumble certificate yells at you when you log into the Mumble for the first time. I know that's something Scott dealt with. But yeah. So if we invite you into the Mumble, it's totally cool to just click yes on that. I'm not trying to hack you. It might happen, but not my fault. All right. Well, that'll really do it for the feedback this time. And now we'll move down to check this out. So in this section, I'll throw this out there for a second. Scott, if there's anything that you use on Linux at all that you want to recommend to anybody else, now's a good time. I'll give you a second to think about it because I've kind of blindsided you with that. So Moss, we'll start with you. What do you got?
Well, first up, we have the MNT Reform laptop, a ready-to-go open hardware laptop with a 256 gig NVMe, Debian GNU Linux 11 on an SD card, printed operator handbook, and international power supply. We're talking $1,300 for a laptop. It's being crowdfunded, and they've raised $133,848 of their $115,000 goal. So it is going forward. They have a Max for $1,500. They have a do-it-yourself kit for $999. They've got a motherboard by itself for $550 and $40 for the t-shirt. The idea being that everything on this machine can be replaced and upgraded. And so it could last 10, 15 years before you have to think about another computer.
Oh, yeah, that's that big chunky monster, huh?
It's chunky, but hey, it'll still be there when you're done, you know?
That's cool, though.
And the fact that when we talked about this last week, they were like 40% of their goal, and now they're 116% of their goal.
Yes, people love that chunky monster. Yes.
And chunky doesn't necessarily mean bad, because it does give you a bit of space for cooling as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, the other thing I have, a little app called Activity Watch to track your screen time in Linux. What are you doing when you're doing it? And this is a local-only application. There's nothing being sent off of your machine.
I will say, one of the Draugr OS devs that frequents Spittle, he was looking for something that did something like this. And yeah, Activity Watch, check it out. I don't know if he listens, but I mean, hey, I'll just put it out on the internet anyway.
Well, that's all I've got.
Joe.
Well, I don't know if anybody's been keeping track of the news lately, but Ohio was one of those states that had the COVID-19 fraud, where businesses could report report former employees that didn't want to come back to work over COVID-19 concerns, and those people would immediately be kicked off of unemployment. Well, a hacker decided that was a terrible thing and shut them down with, I believe he was sending junk data to them. And then Ohio started changing its tune.
Ooh, little vigilante justice, huh?
Yeah.
Tony, what do you got?
Right. Earlier on in the show, I mentioned a YouTuber called The Old Tech Bloke had done a video this week about who were typical Linux users. So I've put a link in the show notes to his YouTube channel. It's actually a really good, well-considered video. He talks about the different types of Linux user, gives them a name, which is a bit of a gag, but you know, the actual underlying talk of the video is really good. So go and check that out if you want to.
Cool. Scott, anything that you conjured up?
If it's not really Linux related, but I do listen to a ton of podcasts, and they're not all Linux related either. But
That's fine.
I think if you want to get your daily dose of coronavirus, there's a good daily update from NPR that they send out every day. It's like 15 minutes long. I think it's a great podcast to listen to.
Oh, is that Up First? Is that what you're talking about?
Say that again?
Up First from NPR?
No, it's Coronavirus Daily. It's a new podcast that they're putting out.
Ah, I gotcha. Okay, yeah, I didn't know about that one. I listen to NPR Up First all the time because it's about 15 minutes and all it is just straight news, straight facts. So I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like listening to that. And I don't know if this is probably old news, but if you haven't listened to Wolverine yet, I highly say check it out. I think it's a great series to listen to as a. It's not a book. It's more.
Yeah, I think I've
listening to
actually
TV
mentioned it.
without the TV.
I think I've actually mentioned it on the show. They had like 2 seasons of it. I don't know if there's a third one out yet.
Not
But
yet.
I did listen to the first 2 seasons, and yeah, it was pretty darn good.
Yeah, it really felt like you were watching it on TV, but without seeing it. It really was that well put together.
Yeah, and at the risk of sounding even more nerdy than I do, Blizzard, the guys that do World of Warcraft, they do audio series like that as well. And man, they are so well done that it really will. Like if you just close your eyes, it's just a movie in your head. It's so cool.
You'll have to link that one, the one from Blizzard.
Yeah, there were a few. There are actually quite a few. I'll put those in. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Sweet. Thank you very much for those. All right, well, that'll do it for pretty much all of the show. As far as announcements go, our next episode will be at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time, 7 p.m. UTC, and that'll be on May 31st, 2020. And that's 8 p.m. British Summer Time. So, Scott, one final question for you, or series of, I guess. Aside from the official title of mintCast Contributor now, do you have anything you want to share with listeners, personal or otherwise? This is usually a spot where we reserve for, if you're on Twitter or if you're on YouTube or anything like that, have resources that you want to share. This is a good place to put them.
Well, I'm on the Telegram group in the mintCast Telegram group as Cygnus X1. So I'm a big Rush fan. Rest in peace, Neil Peart.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 2112. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Cool. How about you, Joe?
Well, all the normal places. You can catch me on a couple other podcasts. That I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, which is www.tllts.org. I'm also on the Linux Lugcast, which is at www.linuxlugcast.com. And this last Friday, we had an interview with Fweeb, who wrote the book for Blender, for, what is it, An Idiot's Guide to Blender? Or Blender for Dummies, one of the two. I'd have to look it up again. You can catch me on MeWe, and you can email me directly, jb@mintcast.org.
And Bo is not here this time, but you can get him at the undercastnetwork.com. Also, Electric City Nerds at ecnradio.com. Moss, what about you?
What about me? Oh, I did that last time. Triad Bardic College, Peaceful Hippo. I have other blogs at linuxquestions.org and dreamwith.org. On MeWe, my music's on Bandcamp and on lbry.tv as at Moss Music. You can write me at moss@mintcast.org, distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com. And I have a sponsors with one sponsor. I appreciate all my sponsors and all the help I get. Thank you, guys.
Very nice. How about you, Tony Hughes?
Yeah, you can get me on Hacker Public Radio, and I've actually got a couple of new shows either up there or in the works. I'm host ID 338. I do an occasional blog, tony-hughes.blogspot.com. I'm on Twitter, TonyH1212. You can get me at distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com or th@mintcast.org.
Very nice. And Tony Watts is not here this time either, but you can get him at tw@mintcast.org, Echoes of Savages, the band, or Tony Watts Music on Facebook. Josh as well, but you can get him at josh@mintcast.org, josh@edublocks.org, edublocks.org, Bitcast, and at all_about_code on Twitter. For me, leochavez.org and at leochavez on Twitter, and you can get your 5-minute news digest at Full Circle Weekly News. But before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Scott for coming on the show today, Hobstar for his work on the new logo, Josh for all his work on the website, Hacker Public Radio for the mumble server we use as a backup to record, Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org and our mumble server, archive.org for hosting our audio files, and of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about every fortnight. Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Clem.
Yay!
And we're out.
Woohoo! Okay, and the Audacity recording.
Yay, you can hit
It's
stop
only 2
whenever you're
hours and
ready.
23 minutes today.
That'll pare down to a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. This
Help
was great.
Scott export the audio.
Oh yeah, we can run through that real quick.
Yeah,
Mike.
if you can just tell me quickly how to do that, that would be great.
Sure. So with it,
Export
yeah,
as
with
a
it
what?
stopped, you can export as FLAC, and when it comes out, you can leave it as default, but we normally go to 8 quality, I think.
Yeah, we do 8 and 24-bit.
There you go.
Do I have?
Just gives us the best quality for the mix.
All right. So, 8-bit. Oh wait a minute. So I'm ready to export. as a
No,
FLAC
it's quality's 8 and the bit rate is 24, I think.
Did we tell them about FLAC? We got to be doing FLAC, right?
Yeah.
Here, look.
FLAC.
Okay, so I'm gonna run through it with you. So I'm gonna save and then export export audio,
Yep.
and
okay.
then bottom right you should see a list. Make sure it says
Yep.
FLAC
I got
files,
FLAC.
and then you'll get 2 options: level and bit depth. Level is
level.
8, and bit depth is 24.
Okay. And then it's now I have episode 335.wav.
No, you
So-
need to change that to FLAC.
Yeah, swap
F-
wave to FLAC.
And I'll put my initials.
And you also have to change the type to FLAC down below.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
already
he's
did.
already done
Yep.
that. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
the,
Okay.
the name of the file had kept the WAV.
Yes, it did that on mine too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And could someone share him the audio folder? That way he can just drop it in there.
I don't have email to make the audio folder shareable. Have you got
mean,
it?
I can do
So,
it if I need to.
Has anybody watched the most recent episode of Rick and Morty?
No.
No,
You
I
should
watched
watch
the first few episodes of that and it didn't catch my interest.
Yeah. No, because in the newest episode, Rick actually says, let's all pretend that podcasting isn't boring.
Let me see.
I didn't think it was myself. I'm getting a lot out of this.
Well, so am I. I mean, I enjoy podcasting.
All right, Scott, here in about 30 seconds or so, you will get a invitation to a folder, and you can just drop the resulting FLAC file in there.
That sounds good. So, speaking of podcasts, right? If I look at my stats, I've listened to podcasts for 53 days and 13 hours.
Ooh.
That's my time that I've spent in my truck driving back and forth to work or driving who knows where.
Yeah, that is mostly where I listen to my podcast as well. So it's kind of thrown me off. I'm missing a lot right now.
Yeah, I
How does it make you feel to know that you've spent 57 days in your vehicle?
This is about 4 years. I think it's about 4 years worth of data, and it's most of the podcasts I listen to are the financial shows like Motley Fool, Planet Money, things like that.
Yeah.
Do you work in
I
finance?
do a lot of investing.
Do you work in finance?
No, I don't. It's just a hobby. Just like Linux and computers is a hobby for me.
That's cool.
I actually
All
work
right.
in finance, so I'm not allowed to do any trading.
Oh. Well, as far as the live stream goes, thank you guys, everybody, for hanging out with us. I realize right now that I was not even paying attention to the YouTube chat, so if you were talking to me, I'm sorry. I totally missed it all. But anyhow, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that, and I'm going to go stomp over there and go kill the live feed.
So I still don't have the email. Am I going to get that soon, or?
It should be. Here, let me see. I did audio share. Let me make sure your name is in there. It's not in there. What the heck? I put it in there. I literally. Oh, there it is. Okay, I don't know. It didn't go. I guess I just walked away from it.
Now, you guys were talking about a specific type of drive.
All right, Scott, you should have it now, like, well, soonish.
During part of the interview, I stepped away for like a minute to use the restroom. And during the interview, I think you and Leo were discussing a drive of some kind.
Yeah, 4 terabyte external drive for backups.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go on my Amazon app, I'll just share it and put it in the Telegram group, and you guys can see it.
Okay, perfect.